Regular meeting of the San Marcos City Council to order. Today is July 1st of 2025. It is 6:01. Ms. Trevino, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Rodriguez.
Here.
Mr. Saul Gonzalez. Here. Ms. Garza.
Here.
Mayor Houston.
Here.
Mr. Scott.
Here.
Mr. Mendoza.
Here.
Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
All right. Next is our invocation, which tonight will be given by Father Christian Hawley, Rector at St. Mark's Episcopal Church.
Thanks, and let us pray. God, we give you thanks for this community of San Marcos and all our blessings, from our river to our people. Empower us, all of us, to use our gifts for the common good. Send your Spirit on this gathering as we practice the arts of listening and discernment. And then send us out into the world to do the good work you have given us to do, with gladness and singleness of heart. In the name of the Creator, the Redeemer, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Next is our pledges of allegiance to the United States and Texas.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you very much. And we will now begin our citizen comment time period. Council hears citizens at work sessions, workshops, and regular meetings. There is a sign-up process. Speakers may speak once during the citizen comment time period and may not yield time to others. If you hear kind of a pound, pound, pound sound on the microphone, it means you're standing too close. So if you'll just move back a little bit. Speakers may speak once. I said that already. If you speak now about a public hearing topic on tonight's agenda, I ask that you not repeat exactly the same comments again during the public hearing on the same topic. You will have 3 minutes to speak after you state your name. A timer is displayed on the screen. You'll start in the green, and we'll get the timer up there any minute. And when you have less than 20 seconds left, you will be in the yellow. And when the timer's red, your time to speak is up and a bell will ring. If you are speaking online, you will get a prompt to be a panelist. You'll need to accept that prompt in order to get in and speak. Mayor and council will endeavor to ensure that meetings are conducted in a courteous manner and in an atmosphere free of defamation, intimidation, personal insults, profanity, or threats of violence. If you do any of those, you'll hear the gavel. At that time, I will ask you to leave the council chambers. If you need help, we have an officer here to assist you. This is your warning. This is not you say something and I say don't do that again and you keep talking. It's you say something and I ask you to leave. This is your warning. So, at this point, as soon as I find my list, there we go. I will read 5 names, and if you'll get ready. And when the third person's speaking, then after they speak, I'll call the next 5. First is Scott Cove, followed by Tori Martin, then Abby Wetzel, Abigail Lindsay, and Aaron Brown. If any of those people are here, please come into the chambers. And Scott Cove is online, so we will start with him. Your 3 minutes starts as you say your name.
Hello, everyone. My name is Scott Cove. Hello, Council. I want to wish everyone a good July and a good summer. I am just here today to give an update on the situation in Gaza, Palestine, just because it's weighing on my heart, and I just need to speak my piece. Right now, the Gaza Strip is facing new displacement orders, and just 18% of the Gaza Strip is currently considered humanitarian zone where they won't bomb, and that's about 25 square miles for an estimated 2 million people. If you do the math, that's 80,000 people per square mile. That's smaller than San Marcos, which is about 35 square miles. There's a continued ban on baby formula and an urgent need for baby formula in the Gaza Strip. Today, more than 170 international organizations, including Oxfam, Save the Children, Amnesty International, and Doctors Without Borders, issued a joint declaration in Geneva demanding the immediate dismantling of the US and Israel-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Since it was launched in May, the GHF has been linked to the deaths of over 550 Palestinians and thousands of injuries. The aid model, which is run by private firms and bypasses the UN, has been condemned as unsafe, coercive, and unlawful. It's an undignified way to distribute aid. It's been compared to the Squid Games, a fictional dystopian movie on Netflix. The US recently approved $30 million in more funding for the GHF, despite over 170 organizations calling for its dismantlement. The State Department, our State Department, just approved $500 million to transfer bunker buster ammunition to the Israeli government, which is, it's heartbreaking. Also on June 22nd, the United States illegally attacked Iranian nuclear facilities without congressional approval. It's a violation of international law, the Geneva Convention. It's an act of aggression and violates the prohibition of attacks on nuclear facilities, which are especially dangerous. I wanted to close with the words of Wadia Abu al-Saad, a journalist in Gaza. He says, "I swear to God, I'm tired of calling out and screaming in the name of the Arabs, in the name of humanity, in the name of the free world. I'm tired. Every day I document to you the massacres, the pieces of war, the annihilation committed upon our rights."
Our next speaker is Tori Martin.
Tori Center has been pushed back on the agenda again, but I am still here, wanting you to know that my neighborhood had their water shut off again last Tuesday, and then we received a boil water notice because of the bacteria in the lines. Like I've mentioned before, this is a true ongoing issue that we face regularly that would worsen with the strain on the pipes. I also want you to know that grief doesn't even begin to come close to describe how I feel and how I've been feeling. I have been beyond distraught about the greed and the neglect for the entire world that is now bleeding into my own literal backyard. It's absolutely devastating what mankind's greed is doing to this planet and now is literally knocking on my door. It hurts to know how much I have loved my hometown and that I have lived my entire 32 years and worked my entire life here in this community and have spent my life loving a place that will be responsible for making a decision that could greatly diminish my way of life. It feels very unfair, but isn't that how things go? We are just told how unfair life is and that we just have to deal with it. It feels like a brutal betrayal. While I stand here and try to protect a town that I love, and it holds all the power to hurt me. It's very scary that what I'm up against is money, because money holds a lot of power. And I believe the reason that you would consider a data center is for a tax incentive. And I'm in a very tricky position since I've been told that Texas and by the council has told us that they're pushing these data centers on us and that they are coming. And we are no longer fighting just one or two or three. It's more. So now I feel forced to say that we know that there are 3 other data centers wanting to go in. Let that son of that ranch who says they want to sell their family land to a data center, let that be your tax incentive. You will get it. It just doesn't have to turn my world upside down. ERCOT will approve all of them over time. You have the ability to deny this one and you hold the power. Please do not send this back to P&Z. We showed up and we showed them that we didn't want this. Please listen to us saying no. We are fighting for this and we have no money to gain. We are fighting to stand by morals and values that we believe in are greater than greed. Thank you for listening to me.
Our next speaker is Abby Wetzel.
Hello, my name is Abby Wetzel. I'm here this evening to speak against the Mayberry Data Center at 904 Francis Harris Lane and the Carson Saby Data Center that would be near the intersection of Old Bastrop Highway and Center Point Road. I have recently learned that ERCOT has no regulatory power over how many data centers can be built in the state. This means that the 2 that are proposed for outside of city limits in Hayes County will be built since the county has no regulatory control over land use and zoning. To me, this means that we must stop the ones that are being proposed inside of city limits. I know it sounds appealing to allow them due to the allure of more regulatory control, but I think the better outcome is less data centers. Plus, the data centers in the county are making the same claims of sustainability. We must stop the ones that we can so we can protect our water resources. May I remind you that there are 4 proposed in Hayes County, 2 in Caldwell County, and 1 in Guadalupe County. This is just in our area. There are already around 400 data centers in the state of Texas, making us the state with the 2nd highest number of data centers in the nation. It breaks my heart to think of all the water that is being used for data centers in a state that is in a record drought. We have all heard by now that data centers use copious amounts of water and electricity, and the developers are trying to convince us that the closed-loop system is the way to use less water. I do not think that we are being told the whole truth about how these systems work. We are told that the systems get charged once and then that lasts for 10 years. This does not account for the hardness of our water. It also doesn't account for the necessary water to cool the lines. From my understanding, the water is circulated between the servers and chillers to dissipate heat. The lines must be cooled before the water can be returned to the servers, and this is done by misting them. This water is not accounted for in the initial charge. Another aspect of water usage that is not accounted for in the closed-loop system is the amount of water it takes to generate the power needed for the closed-loop system. This should definitely be considered in the water footprint of the data center. We finally got a copy of the restrictive covenants for the Mayberry Data Center, and I'm not impressed. You have already heard my opinion of a closed-loop system. The LEED certification is not required. It just says they will pursue it. The contract is only for 20 years. This means it could change to a more water-intensive cooling system after 20 years. He's also pressuring for the zoning decision to be made by August 30th, or the restrictive covenants are dropped. There's nothing in the covenants about energy usage. It also sounds like the only way to enforce these covenants is going to court. Don't let Mr. Mayberry swindle you. He said he has a website with information to contact him through it. The website is nothing but a bunch of greenwashing, and they do not respond to emails. Mr. Mayberry also has not returned my phone call. He said that he was open to community outreach. Do not allow him to convince you that it should go back to planning and zoning. He is just trying to work you to get what he wants. Planning and zoning already voted, and the restrictive covenants are not a reason to send it back to them. Also, one last thing I wanted to say is if there ends up being data centers in city limits, they should be zoned as
And your
heavy
time is
industrial.
up.
Thank you.
After Abigail Lindsay and Aaron Brown will be, in this order, Mike Kammerlander, Jennifer Lindsay, Gina Fleming, Thomas Atnip, and Jim Keith. Is Abigail Lindsay here?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are.
Yes. Hello. Good evening. My name's Abigail Lindsay. I know the ZC 2502 and AN-2502 have been postponed until August, but I wanted you to know I am still fighting against it. The city has a unique opportunity to say no to this development change. The county does not have that luxury. Use your power, listen to your community. We do not want this data center. ERCOT will approve any and all applications for data centers. So the idea that only 1 or 2 will be built is false. Potentially, they could all be built. There are 4 proposed data centers on Francis Harris. You have the power to say no to at least 1, and now is your time to use your authority. Please do not send this back to P&Z. Nothing has really changed except for some minor restricted covenants that really don't do anything. P&Z voted 8-1 for a reason. It was one of the biggest turnouts. Their recommendation should stand. Jim Garber made a passionate speech at the end of that meeting, and we should honor his wishes. Regarding item number 22, Carson Development Committee, I urge City Council to make these meetings open to the public, or at least have a member of the public in the committee. Once again, this is a proposed data center. You can see how involved the community is on this topic. We want to be part of that process. On a personal note, this ordeal has taken a toll on my health, my family, and my neighbors' health. I have been thinking about data centers since February. Time with my child has been impacted. My son, who is 5, talks about data centers. But I care so much about this in my community, I am willing to keep going and to keep fighting. This issue has become bigger and bigger and talked about so much. I had a reporter from Germany come out to my house last week to interview me about fighting data centers. So in a month, our story will be broadcast to German residents. How amazing that people that far away will know of San Marcos, Texas, and our fight against this. This is a huge decision, and the community wants City Council to say no to data centers. Just to kind of go off of what Tori talked about, for the last 2 weeks, I have had brownouts at my house. I have Pedernales Electric. I've also received boil water notices from Crystal Clear, and I've been suffering with low pressure. These are the same utilities that 904 will use. They can't sustain residential customers right now. I just don't see how it's possible to attain this idea of 4 data centers on the same road. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Aaron Brown. Is Aaron here? Then Mike Camerlander. They'll turn it on for you if it's not on.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Council members. My name is Mike Camerlander, President of the Hayes Caldwell EDP. I'm here tonight to express my full support for item number 20, the 130-room, $40 million privately developed downtown hotel that will be a transformative asset for our city. A full-service downtown hotel will act as a catalyst for surrounding businesses, generating new foot traffic, increasing average spend in the downtown corridor, and supporting our local entrepreneurs, restaurants, and retailers. When visitors stay overnight, their dollars go further, supporting jobs, boosting sales tax revenue, and extending the vibrancy of downtown into evenings and weekends. And the Embassy Suites has been and will continue to be great for our city, but a downtown option will further enhance options in San Marcos. This project also enables us to tap into new markets, small to mid-sized conferences, university-affiliated events, business retreats, and weddings. And with Texas State's recently announced move to the Pac-12 conference, these opportunities are expected to only increase. As economic development professionals, we're always evaluating these projects through the lens of public ROI. A $40 million investment in the urban core translates to decades of reliable property tax revenue, and this project has 0 property tax abatements. At this time, it would add modern lodging infrastructure to support both residents and visitors and strengthen our position in the corridor between Austin and San Antonio. This hotel also supports the goals laid out in the downtown area plan, our economic development strategy, and our tourism development objectives. One of the recommendations of the downtown area plan is B4 under building form and infill development, which is, quote, to attract a downtown hotel that provides multiple economic benefits and assets to downtown and serve visitors to San Marcos and Texas State University. This achieves that goal. It also places a taxable asset on a tax rolls on a parcel of land that currently generates no taxes. From an economic development standpoint, this project represents a strategic and fiscally sound opportunity for San Marcos, with the city retaining 100% of the property taxes generated by this development. We're securing a high-value return on that project that enhances both our tax base and community infrastructure while accomplishing community-identified goals for our downtown. I'm also here in favor of number 16 on the agenda for ordinance 2025-22, which is a rezoning. I just want to make sure I get that in too, because I did not sign up for the public hearing on that one. So with that, I urge you to support the incentive agreement and ordinance 2025-22. Thank you.
Jennifer Lindsay is next. I see her.
Good evening. I'm Jennifer Lindsay, a neighbor to the proposed Highlander Data Center. I oppose this development. It's not the future I want for myself, our neighbors, or our larger San Marcos community. As a reminder, the San Marcos Comprehensive Plan that took many years to develop and was released October 2024 determined that land on and around Francis Harris Lane should be protected for the future as conservation clusters. ERCOT will approve all data centers. As an additional reminder, PNZ voted against Highlander's proposal. Please uphold that vote and do not send it back there. Please do not bend to the will of these developers. Our community doesn't want this as our future, and you have the power to craft something different for us. Do not be the frog with the scorpion on your back, helping it to get across the pond, because I can guarantee you we will all get stung by it. Thank you so much.
Our next speaker is Gina Fleming.
Hi, I'm Gina Fleming, and I want to talk about the proposed Mayberry Center. Something came up at the public meeting we had Sunday. Someone brought up that light industrial was not really a relevant zoning application for data centers, and I agree with that. However, I don't think it would be useful to change it to heavy industrial, because I don't think heavy industrial really encapsulates the use either. This is the first time for San Marcos to consider something of this magnitude. This is not business as usual. It seems to be treated as business as usual, but it's not business as usual. These data centers are going to completely disrupt the current land use in the area of residential and agricultural. It's something that just wasn't on our radar when the policies and regulations were made about land use. So I feel we need to take a pause. We need to take a pause. There are so many unknowns with this technology, and so many unknowns about this project that are being kept secret. Even if they weren't kept secret, this is just a novel situation, and there is so much at risk. Literally, the life of the community is at risk, and we need to take this seriously. Now, although Mayberry plans to use Hayes Energy, I think these restrictive covenants are a false sense of security. Backup generators would surely be needed to maintain a constant source of power. And I don't know that there is anything that would prevent him from also trying to develop an alternative energy source on the property. Would the city be able to stop him from doing that? Would that just fall under TCEQ to regulate outside of the city? I don't know that he's mentioned his estimated power usage either. My same concern goes with water. He says he's using crystal clear water. Of course, that's a problem, but with rule of capture in Texas and our really weak water laws, is there anything to prevent him from finding another well somewhere on the Edwards Aquifer and building a pipeline and drying up the aquifer even outside of crystal clear? Also, back on the topic of energy, Greg Abbott recently signed new legislation launching a nuclear renaissance in Texas. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Thomas Atnip.
All right. So my name is Thomas Satnip. Good evening, Madam Mayor, and ladies and gentlemen on the council. I just wanted to come introduce myself. I'm a small business owner here in San Marcos. I own Hill Country Cards and Collectibles. And before that, I owned Friday's Liquor. I've been in business in Hays County and in the city of San Marcos for about 15 years. I didn't get to make the last couple meetings, unfortunately, but I wanted to make tonight just to introduce myself to y'all. And y'all will be seeing me quite a bit more, I have a feeling, in the coming months. We're going to be supporting, I think Brandon, Mr. Oles is going to be announcing his candidacy to run at the end of the year for the vacant seat that's coming up. The problem that I have right now is I'm driving by the rivers, I'm seeing the fences go up. Then tonight, we get here and we see that they're going to add more pay to park, and this is continuing. I've lived here for almost 20 years. Are we in that desperate need of money that now we need to charge for parking, which is going to hurt tourism, because people are already talking about not wanting to come here based on that. They've already been run out of Bronzeville's based on that to a large extent. Then people wanting to talk about, we live in the county. I live in the county, several other local business owners live in the county. So we have to pay to go to the park, but yet we generate sales tax revenue for the city. So why should we have to pay to use something that we are paying for? We are not paying city taxes, that is accurate, but we are collecting sales tax for the city. So why do we need to pay to use the parks? The data center thing, I understand that's good for the economy. I get what these young ladies were saying. It's not going to be good for our water usage. It's already happening in West Texas. I'm originally from Midland, and they're starting to build them out there, and they're having the same issue with water. That wasn't what I originally planned on speaking on, but I listened to these young women talk, and I totally agree with that. So going forward, we will be a part of what's going on here. I appreciate y'all's time, and y'all have a good evening.
Our next speaker is Jim Keith, but following him will be Lydia Rodriguez, Dylan Deaver, Annette Deaver, Yancy Aravallo, and John Mayberry. Mr. Keith.
Hi, I'm Jim Keith. Thanks for the time you dedicate to San Marcos. When I read the agenda that was posted for this meeting, I was very relieved because I read about major development items that, if handled properly, will improve the quality of life for tens of thousands of people. The contribution that financially successful businesses make to local governments isn't mentioned much. I know well that many residents think growth, prosperity, innovation, modernization, and immense financial success in San Marcos are negative aspects. I don't. I'm sure you will hear from some of them. A modern, unique downtown hotel has the potential to create benefits from a market opportunity that's existed for decades. Successful operating data centers would build opportunities that would smoothly blend into the community, just like Amazon, CFAN, Epic Piping, the Outlet Mall, Trace, Blanco Vista, La Cima, Kissing Tree, and other developments and businesses in San Marcos, some of which do business all around the globe. Water treatment modernization with increased capacity and improved efficiency is a very important topic. Properly managed water treatment upgrades would make epic positive impacts. In the recent past, Texas State added McCoy Hall, Ingram Hall, and numerous high-rise dormitories here in town. These developments helped increase the university enrollment and created desired curriculum. The current progress includes the STEM classroom building here in the middle of town that will continue the positive growth. Look back at the changes that occurred when Texas State opened new facilities and moved up to Division I sports. And now they're joining the Pac-12 division, which will be more of a nationwide media grab. I mentioned the past because I'm so glad to see the City Council agenda items that will work to parallel the growth and innovation in San Marcos with what Texas State University is accomplishing. And I really don't see the value in $950,000 city limit landmarks on the highway. Have a productive meeting.
Our next speaker is Lydia Rodriguez. There she is.
Hi, good evening. Lydia Rodriguez. So I'm here in support of the Say No to the data centers. I live off of York Creek Road, and I've lived there my husband and I have lived there 30-plus years. We've raised our children there. The property that we live on was my grandfather's property. It's been in our family for over 60 years. Now we have to fight pipelines, data centers, all these people that are reaching out to us, trying to get us to sell properties. Our children are moving back home, building houses on these properties. And we just want to make sure that we can say no to these data centers. Our evenings are peaceful, they're relaxing, we get home from work, we can jump in the pool, relax, we hear nothing but birds, hawks, whatever, we may hear turkeys, but we are just worried about these data centers that are coming all the way around us, all on Francis Harris. We just want to make sure that the issues that are coming up is like massive consumptions, water consumptions, everything that they're going to use, the noise pollution that I'm worried about. Like Tori said, the water, our water was cut off last week due to the bacteria or whatever. We're just worried about all of that, we're just country folks that want to live out there and enjoy our lives out there. We just want everybody to say no to these data centers. So please listen to all of us that are here wanting to say no to these data centers. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Next is Dylan Deaver. Is Dylan Deaver here? Annette Deaver? Yancy Aravallo? Yeah, she's coming. Yeah, I saw her earlier too. I thought she was here.
Hello, Yancy Arevalo. As we come close to July 4th, I want to remind everyone that this is either currently happening or has happened. Although declared brain dead in February 2025, Adriana Smith's body was kept on life support for 4 months in Georgia because she was 8 weeks pregnant. Georgia's abortion laws took over her body and forced a decaying body to deliver a baby. And this is not the first time that Black people's bodies have been experimented on in the history of America. Israel, with US weapons and money, is still committing genocide of the Palestinian people. IDF soldiers are murdering women, children, and families, and posting pictures online wearing dead women's clothes, riding dead children's bikes, and posing in destroyed buildings with "Death to Arabs" graffitied on the walls. The Senate passed the big beautiful bill, 50-51 vote, to cut Medicaid and SNAP benefits for the American people, and instead fund $59 billion for concentration camps. Greg Abbott refuses to hold a special election for District 18 in Texas so that the people can, actually be represented. But just recently signed a law allowing gold and silver as legal tender in Texas. Firefighters in Idaho were ambushed and shot at after Wes Val Rowley, a 20-year-old, intentionally started a fire and killed 2 firefighters. In Alabama, Jabari Peoples, a teenager, was shot in the back by Homewood police after someone made a phone call because they suspected him of being up to something. So as y'all celebrate 4th of July, for those of you who will, I hope that some of these things that I said will keep you up, that as you're celebrating a country based on freedom and independence and liberty and justice for all, that these are currently the things that are happening in our country as we, as our current president and our current government becomes more fascist by the day. So yeah, I think I'm just gonna stand here for the rest of my time. And if this makes you uncomfortable, it should. You should not be celebrating a day while all this, lack for a better word, shit is happening in our country. Yeah, my time is up.
Next is John Mayberry, and he will be followed by James Summers, Freddie, and then Michael Whalen.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. John Mayberry. I'm just here if there's any questions. Just wanted to make myself available. I don't know why there would be, but I'm here, and I'll give you back the rest of my time.
Okay. James Summers.
Hello, my name is James Summers. I would first like to thank everybody for being here, whether you are here because you're elected a dedicated public servant or fellow citizens here. We're all here to make our community a little bit better, and in a time of finding things that divide us, I think that is kind of cool that we're all here for that. I'd like to speak a little bit about an agenda item that'll be coming up generally, about case management in terms of social services and the differences between different kinds of case management. A golf cart and a Ferrari are both vehicles that will get you from one place to another with 4 wheels, but they have decidedly different characteristics. When it comes to caseworkers for social services, there's a vast difference between a caseworker and somebody with some in-depth social work background. The caseworker will take a housing voucher for somebody, say, okay, here's a slot, here's an apartment for you, you're there, you're now not homeless, you're now housed. A social worker will realize that that apartment is $1,300 a month and you're putting somebody on a fixed income of $1,500 a month into a $1,300 a month apartment. The caseworker would have caused that person to be evicted and have that count against them so that the next time that they are up for this, they have a much more difficult thing. The social worker will know to view somebody a little bit more comprehensively. Both are caseworkers, but some social work background is important for that when you're thinking about the term caseworker. I've seen case management of varying degrees of competence, and get somebody, whatever you decide, get somebody some training and make sure that they have an appropriate background. That's it. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Next is Freddie.
Hi. I'm sure y'all realize that for every single person speaking here, sharing their voice for 3 minutes, there are a multitude more who share this sentiment. We must fight for a livable world. Forces promulgating a non-viable future must be contested. Unfortunately, too many are too afraid, overwhelmed, despondent, and many more still in denial about the necessity of this. Modern society treats water, air, and earth ungraciously, commodities to be purchased, media to be exhausted. What is the worst that could happen? Water, everyone assumes there's more where that came from. We live on an aqueous planet. Yet how much of that water is fresh and clean? Our government permits corporations to irrigate computer servers and release water laced with poison that cannot be expunged. The worst that could happen? Central Texas desiccated, life forms extirpated. More and more of us succumb to cancer and other preventable ailments. The air is thick with smog from all the fracked gas power plants. We and our loved ones suffer with disease and dementia from all these preventable fumes. Meanwhile, a very few enrich themselves. Surveillance technologies, data mining, AI tools utilized in various nefarious, bigoted, and lethal ways proliferate. College students never write a single essay. Culture becomes all the more vapid. And no amount of tax revenue can compensate for all the loss, all the irreparable harm, all the cancer treatments, the death, the ecological collapse. We are insisting you do so much more than use your authority to not enable these harms. We are imploring that you advocate, agitate, and wield every bit of your influence to protect our community from them. We will be holding another public forum ahead of the vote on the 19th and be looking for an email from the Data Center Action Coalition. We hope to see you there.
Would you pronounce your name for me?
I say my name's Cy Freedy.
Okay.
Yeah, please come. Thank you.
All right, and our next speaker is Michael Whelan, and then I will go back through the group. For those that were not here when I called you before, Mr. Whelan.
Sorry, excuse me. Michael Whalen on behalf of Highlander and John Mayberry. Like John, I'm here to answer any questions, and I yield back my time.
All right, thank you. Those I called on earlier that were not here, Aaron Brown, if Aaron Brown is here, come on in. Dylan Deaver and Annette Deaver.
Hi, all. Aaron Brown, 343 Hunters Glen Drive, San Marcos, Texas, 78666. As you can see today, I'm wearing my hat. So I'm usually here to talk about the data center. Tonight, I am not. I know before you, you have a resolution coming from the VAAC, specifically talking about bettering the memorial, bettering the transportation. Normally, I have a really polished and prepared speech. I'm going away from that today to tell you the amount of times that I get called from elderly veterans who need transportation up to Austin, that need transportation down to Audie Murphy, that need transportation to any number of the clinics around here. I can tell you that this is a severely underserved group within our area. We're trying as hard as we can, but we can't do it all. We need you guys to support. The information put forward by Ms. Torres. She's done all the background, done all of the work. She's been working on it for several years. There is a serious need to be able to get our older veterans to their health care. And the only way we can do that at this point is figuring out either some way from the city or some way from the county to get these veterans where they need, get them the care that they need. On a regular basis, we have, for those of y'all that don't know, I'm the quartermaster of the post. I'll be there for just general housekeeping, treasury, whatever I'm doing that day, and I will have somebody walk in that needs assistance, whether it be assistance in paying their bills, whether it be assistance in getting transportation somewhere, whether it be assistance in getting a place to stay. In fact, Thanksgiving this year, we ended up putting up a gentleman in a hotel. We luckily have a relief fund to allow us to do that, that is specifically designated for that. That's what Buddy Poppy money that you donate goes towards, is the relief fund specifically, so that we can take care of veterans. But that's not an infinite fund. We may get $600 in a year to go towards taking care of veterans. So I'm asking, I'm begging, I'm pleading, when you're considering that, consider the elderly veterans, the homeless veterans in our community that are moving through our community. Thank you.
Dylan Deaver?
I'm Dylan Deaver. I've been a San Marcos resident for 32 years, so I've seen quite a change. I've never really come up to advocate my opinion because I know growth is inevitable, but when I heard that there's an AI data center being built here, I knew that wasn't good for our city going forward. The amount of power that will produce will raise my utility bill, just because they use around 80,000 homes worth of power. And that's like the biggest installation, but even if it's just half that amount, it's gonna be such a draw that they can't just like stop it. And with this new, in the whole big beautiful bill, there's a thing for the AI that the government, or they won't let the government regulate the AI technology for like 10 years. And so I just don't think it's a good idea with everything that's being built here in San Marcos. It seems like a lot of growth too fast, and we don't know the implications of like even the Buc-ee's will have on our water supply, along with all these other hotels and apartment complexes. I just think it's too big of a gamble, and it's just not worth it. I mean, the only thing is that you get out of it for the citizens is just the tax benefits of it. That's it. But it doesn't actually benefit any of the people, and I don't think it's a good gamble on our precious waters and where we live to build a data center here. They should be built up north, away from intense heat and long summer days. I think it's kind of AI is a tricky thing. It's obviously inevitable, but we can still make a stand, but being that small person to stand up to big tech that's going to be encroaching. And at the end of the day, this technology is not what makes us survive. It's water. It's the actual resources. And I think it's also total disrespect to, if you believe in God, because you need water in order to sustain these type of technologies. And water's life. If that goes away, if there's ever a period that we run out sooner, and we don't curve it, it's like cancer. You think you don't get it, but then it all of a sudden just appears, then you have a problem on your hand. I think prevention's a lot better, and just, but I mainly just came here to voice my concern about that place, and it'll destroy the people around them. I mean, that's just like the biggest, excuse my language, but F you to those people that are living next to it. You're just decimating their way of living and just their peace of mind because of also how noisy these things are. There's a lot of animal life around there, so just know that you'll be like just completely destroying their lives. So I please vote against the AI data center coming up. Thank you.
Last call for Annette Deaver to speak. Okay, so this concludes our citizen comment portion of the program. Next is our consent agenda. The following ordinances, resolutions, and other items numbered 1 through 12 may be acted upon by one motion. No separate discussion or action on any of the items is necessary unless desired by a council member, in which event the item shall be considered in its normal sequence after the items not requiring separate discussion and after our public hearings. So, council, looking to see if anything in 1 through 12, if you want to pull for extended discussion.
I just have a question, actually. I was not, I abstained because of the last reading on number 1, because I live in the neighborhood. Am I allowed to just say I abstain, or do I need to leave for this? I'm sorry.
Ask our
Mr. Berry?
attorney.
You can vote on the whole consent and just indicate for the record that you are abstaining from participation in that one item.
Thank you.
Anyone? Okay, I'm looking for a motion to approve 1 through 12. Thank you, Mr. Scott. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez. And we're push-button voting, Ms. Trevino, it looks like?
Yes,
Because the
ma'am.
little lights are blinking.
Same,
And
just
of
the point
course,
that I
you will
see.
record Mr. Mendoza's abstention
Thank you
on
very much.
item
And
1.
just to mention it again, I am abstaining to number 1 because I live in the Rio Vista neighborhood, which this is taking place in.
The motion passes 7-0 with Mr. Mendoza abstaining from number 1.
All righty, so we are to, it would be item 13. Mr. Aguirre, do we need to read those?
No, Mayor, it's not required. They're not action items, just a convenience notice for the public.
Just wanting to make sure. So we are at item 14. Ms. Hernandez, good to see you again.
All right.
I need to let Ms. Trevino read it first, my bad.
Receive a staff presentation, hold a public hearing to receive comments for or against ordinance 2025-20, annexing into the city approximately 10.03 acres of land known as UMC subdivision Lot 1, including adjacent right-of-way in Hays County, Texas, generally located southeast of Clovis Barker Road and Leah Avenue, including procedural provisions, and declare an effective date, and consider approval of ordinance 2025-20 on the first of 2 readings.
Thank you. Now, sorry, my bad.
Mayor Council, Amanda Hernandez, Director of Planning and Development Services. The property is located off Clovis Barker and is the location of Novion Magnetics. In 2017, a Chapter 380 incentive agreement was approved. At the time, it was called Urban Mining. Some of you may recall that name. This economic incentive agreement included terms for annexation. The agreement stated that when the business received its certificate of occupancy, they would annex into the city. In September of 2024, and I apologize for the typo in the packet, the business received their CO and subsequently submitted the annexation application. This annexation request is accompanied by a zoning request for heavy commercial, which is the next item on the agenda. We're going to skip forward 3 slides. We're holding a public hearing today, and staff is recommending approval as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will open the public hearing. And I'm calling to see who wishes to speak for, against, or about this annexation item. Anyone? Going once, twice, 3 times? Okay, so I will close the public hearing and wait for a motion from council. Motion to approve from Mr. Mendoza. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Lorenzo Gonzalez. Council, discussion? And for all, this is, I believe this is 1550 Clovis Barker Road. Do I have that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. If there are no comments, we will vote.
Motion passes 5-1 with one absent.
All righty, that takes us on to item 15.
Sorry, Mayor, let me get my agenda real quick here. Receive a staff presentation, hold a public hearing to receive comments for or against ordinance 2025-21, amending the official zoning map of the city in case number ZZ-25-07 by rezoning approximately 10.03 acres of land known as UMC Subdivision Lot 1, generally located southeast of Clovis Barker Road and Lee Avenue from future development to heavy commercial district or subject to consent of the owner or another less intense zoning district classification, including procedural provisions, and declare an effective date, and consider approval of ordinance 2025-21, the first of two readings.
Presentation.
Amanda Hernandez, Director of Planning and Development Services. This property is the same 10 acres, which was the subject of our previous item. Next slide. Novion Magnetics is currently surrounded by industrial and warehouse uses as well as vacant land and the Army Reserve on Leah Avenue. Next slide. With the annexation, the property will be zoned future development, and the applicant is seeking an appropriate zoning for the current use. Next slide. The property is in a mixed-use medium place type on the preferred scenario map. Next slide. While heavy commercial is not preferred, the development was completed prior to the current comprehensive plan, which is what this table that you're looking at is based on. Next slide. The zoning allows the current use of light manufacturing. Next slide. There are no environmental constraints on the property. Next slide. The property is already platted and receiving city utilities. Next slide. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval, and staff recommends approval of the zoning request as presented. That concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. And I will open the public hearing on item 15. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on this zoning item? For, against, about? Going once? Twice, 3 times. I will close the public hearing, and I will await a motion.
Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Scott, seconded by Mr. Mendoza. Discussion? And Mr. Trevino has us queued up to vote.
Sorry, Mayor. The motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. And on to item 16.
Receive a staff presentation, hold a public hearing to receive comments for or against ordinance 2025-22, amending the official zoning map of the city by rezoning approximately 26.77 acres of land generally located on East McCarty Lane south of the intersection between Rattler Road and East McCarty Lane from Character District 4 to Character District 5, or subject to the consent of the owner, another less than 10 zoning district classification, including procedural provisions, and declare an effective date, and consider approval of ordinance 2025-22 on the first of two readings.
Amanda Hernandez, Director of Planning and Development Services. Ms. Trevino just read the location information. We'll go to the next slide. The property is vacant and surrounded by vacant land planned for residential and industrial development. City Council is aware of a Chapter 380 Economic Incentive Agreement, which is being negotiated separately and will come forward in consideration in the coming months. Next slide. The property is in the city limits, currently zoned Character District 4, which is generally for residential uses, and the applicant is proposing Character District 5, which is compatible with surrounding zoning. Next slide. The comprehensive plan, the area is identified as part of the East Village mixed-use medium place type. Next slide. East Village is an area plan that's in process. Prior to adoption of the comprehensive plan late last year, this area was branded as a second city center. We've included both names in this presentation just for transparency for the public. However, the final plan and the final name of the plan and area will be East Village as referenced in the adopted comprehensive plan. This area plan has had public outreach in 2022 and 2023 and was placed on hold while the comprehensive plan was delayed. Currently, staff is reviewing a draft of that plan and intends to kick off public outreach again later this year. Next slide. Within East Village and the medium mixed-use place type, the requested Character District 5 zoning is one which we should consider in mixed-use medium place types. Next slide. The applicant is proposing a variety of uses, including residential, commercial, and indoor-outdoor recreation. Next slide. The property is not in an environmentally sensitive area. Next slide. Connectivity will be provided at the time of platting. The city is the water and wastewater provider, and Pedernales will serve with electricity. Next slide. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request. The commission asked about the 380 agreement process and confirmed with the applicant that they would meet the two-story requirement in Character District 5. The commission asked about plans for the surrounding property, which the applicant clarified as part of the same development. The applicant confirmed the development is intended to serve the whole city and not just those that live within the surrounding development. Staff recommends approval as presented, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. I will open the public hearing and ask if anyone wishes to speak for, against, or about this item.
Hi, John Kashak, 1801 Lavaca, Austin, Texas, 78701. I work with American Ventures, the developer that is proposing the rezoning, and here to answer any of y'all's questions.
All right, thank you. We had an Erin Welch. Is she online? Okay.
I am. I'm just like John. I am also here to answer any questions that may arise. Thank you.
All righty. Last call, going once, twice, 3 times. I will close the public hearing and await a motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Scott, seconded by Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez for approval. Staff, questions, concerns? Information in the packet was very complete, very informative, but if you have anything else, now would be the time. If not, we're ready to vote.
Okay, the motion passes 7-0.
All right, Ms. Hernandez, thank you for the presentations and the packet. Now we're on to item 17. Ms. Trevino.
Consider approval of ordinance 2025-23, amending section 2.506 of the San Marcos City Code to substitute the chief of police with the director of information technology on the Records Management Committee under the city's public records management program, including procedural provisions, and declare an effective date. And consider approval of ordinance 2025-23 on the first of 2 readings.
Okay. No presentation?
No presentation.
Okay. Then I await a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Mendoza. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Scott. Questions? If not, oh, you go ahead. Would you pull your microphone closer to you, please, dear? I don't know how, I don't know.
So we have I could explain that, Mayor. We do
Thank
have
you.
a records management program, and under the committee, under the plan, we have a committee that signs off of things to purge for city records, and police chief is one of them. But I really work closely with IT regarding like if it's like electronic and stuff like that. So it just made sense for me to have the director of information technology on the committee.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I've asked lots of questions about records, retention, schedules, and all that, and I know you guys are like clearing
We are cleaning
things
that up.
and
Mhm.
so, okay, I was
Yes,
just
ma'am.
curious.
And so
Sounds
this is
good.
kind of the start of kind of cleaning up what needs to be done.
The
So-
process, okay,
Yes,
cool.
ma'am.
Okay, any other questions?
Yes.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Assuming police records are not,
I'm sorry?
police records are handled separately through PD,
That's
right?
correct, yes,
Okay.
we treat them very different, yes.
I assume
But
so,
they do
just,
fall under the state law as well.
but like this committee isn't making decisions on
No, it's,
deletion of
for
police
us, it would
records.
be more for purging, making sure, and they're gonna approve the records management program, the plan.
That's what I figured, just want to make sure.
Okay, yes, sir.
We're ready to vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, on to item 18.
Okay. Consider approval of resolution 2025-124, authorize the use of power of eminent domain to acquire fee simple and public easement interest in real property associated with the installation of the FM 1978 water reclamation facility southeast of the city as depicted in the attached location map, determining the public necessity for these acquisitions, authorizing city manager or designee to take all steps necessary to acquire the needed real property interest in compliance with all applicable laws, authorize city attorney or his designee to institute condemnation proceedings as necessary to acquire said real property interest to the extent negotiations are unsuccessful and declare an effective date.
Looking for a motion?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Scott, seconded by Mr. Mendoza. Are there any questions Mr. Condor, could you just give us a couple of 3 sentences more if you feel you need it, or whomever you wish to comment? It's the eminent domain that
Correct.
gets people excited, you know?
Correct. Good evening, Marcus Nizer, Assistant Director of Capital Improvements. So this is kind of misleading in that we have all the landowners that we have negotiated with sign agreements. So this would be a friendly condemnation. We have 4 transactions and all 4 of them have clouded title. And they all understand that this is coming to be able to cure the title defects so that we can actually close and get title policy. So, and this is for properties around the proposed wastewater treatment plant, which is the next item. And one of them is a wastewater easement, and the other 3 are fee simple purchases. And agreements have all been signed with the known owners.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Any questions, concerns? Thank you for that. That's helpful. Mr. Gonzalez, sometimes you have to push the button twice, you know?
The motion passes 7-0.
All right, item 19.
Sam. Consider approval of resolution 2025-125R, approving a contract with Burns and McDonnell Engineering Company, Inc. to provide Phase 1 progressive design build services for the design of the FM 1978 water reclamation facility project in the estimated amount of $3,518,405. Authorize city manager or her designee to execute the contract on behalf of the city and declare an effective date.
Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Mendoza, seconded by Ms. Rodriguez.
Could we just get a brief presentation for the public, just so they can understand why this was needed, and things like that? Little context, just because it was a good feat that I think the public would need to know.
Yes. Yeah, if the control room has access to the presentation, I do have some slides that would be helpful. Do not see one.
There it is.
Okay. So this is the FM 1978 water reclamation facility. In May of 2024, council authorized to approve an agreement with developers for a cost-sharing agreement for regional wastewater facilities agreement. And it basically committed the city to permit and build a 2 MGD wastewater treatment plant to serve the developments in that area. It also gives the city the ability to expand that treatment plant up potentially from 2 MGD to 8 MGD for that growing part of town. This would be our second wastewater treatment plant. Next slide, please. The tan areas are the developments that are part of the cost-sharing agreement that was approved last year. There was an amendment earlier this year to add a couple more developments into the cost-sharing agreement. Those developments are providing more than $60 million for the design and construction of this wastewater treatment plant. Next slide, please. Next slide. You can see that the red outlined area is 25 acres that was provided by one of the developments. It was conveyed to the city for the site of the water reclamation facility. You can see a dotted black line that extends kind of up to the right. That is a pipeline that will carry treated effluent from the treatment plant site to Cottonwood Creek. Cottonwood Creek is where the treated effluent will go. That is the proper location for the discharge point, and that's what's being permitted with TCEQ currently. And that is the project. So it's, I think it's a win-win situation where we have $60 million and we can build upon that to have wastewater treatment for the future of San Marcos and that part of town.
And Mayor, I'd like to bring special attention to that third bullet, which is really key for one of council's priorities, which is to avoid the construction of multiple different package plants for each one of these subdivisions and allow for regional wastewater management, which is something that TCQ and the city is really going after just to ensure effective wastewater treatment and making sure the water is treated to a higher quality and with more consistency and surety.
A plant, there's actually people there all the time, so. Anyway, kudos to everyone who pulled this deal together. It's fantastic, so thanks to all, because this really is a big deal.
And Mayor, thank you for your question on the message board. I too had this a similar question just to give the public who knows our history with previous wastewater treatment plants and the smell. If staff wants to assure that that's something that we'll definitely be prioritizing to make sure that that's not an issue with this one. Okay, thank you.
That is correct.
Yeah, sometimes the experimental stuff is still
No.
experimental.
We're gonna avoid that technology that was utilized initially at the existing plant, and we're going to address odor control as one of the top priorities from the beginning on this one, which is unique that we start from scratch and design a brand-new plant for a green water site, a greenfield site. So, thank you.
I assumed that, but it's good to hear it. All right, thank you. Council, any questions?
I have a question that might actually be better suited for Ms. Hernandez. But if I remember correctly, in the Sedona South Development Agreement Committee, something came up with access issues to this site that was supposed to be addressed with that developer. Do we know if those questions have been addressed?
Not sure. I think we would have to get Ms. Hernandez to answer that one.
Yeah, and what I recall from the agreement relative to the treatment plant is that there were easement requirements across properties, and those were incorporated into the five-way agreement and have been resolved.
Okay, cool.
Okay. She's always nearby. I think we're okay.
I just heard my name and I came running, so.
We had it.
I'll sit here in case you need me.
I'll let Mr. Pentalian address that we're okay.
I think we're okay unless there are any additional
Response
questions.
was provided.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, I can expound. There was an easement that was authorized under the amendment number 1 to the cost-sharing agreement earlier this year to get water and wastewater easements across Sedona South, from Cottonwood to the treatment plant, if that's what you are remembering, but,
I guess, Mr. Hernandez, since you're here, I'll ask the question. Hopefully, I already answered. But essentially, at the Sedona South Development Agreement Committee, I remember access issues came up that was supposed to be addressed with the Sedona South developers. So basically, to access this wastewater facility, has that already been addressed, or?
We have access to the site, not through the Sedona South property. It's actually coming off of FM 1978. What we do have in the Sedona South Development Agreement is the easement that was just being discussed, and I was going to try to see if I could find when that's coming forward, but I think it's on a schedule to be in front of City Council in September. So you should see that development agreement in September, which will show the access to this property, which will be owned by the city and ultimately annexed.
All right.
Ms. Hernandez always knows. All right.
I will also add that one of the properties in the previous item that we're gonna use friendly condemnation on to clear title is that access from 1978 into the plant site. It's a 1.5 acre tract. They've signed the purchase agreement on it, and we just need to clear title.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Other concerns, thoughts? We can vote.
Okay, the motion passes 7-0.
All right, on to item 20.
Consider approval of ordinance 2025-126R concerning Project Cat Tree and approving a Chapter 38 Economic Development Incentive Agreement with Midway Development LLC, providing incentives in the form of a partial rebates of hotel occupancy and sales taxes over 10 years for the construction of a full-service hotel in downtown San Marcos with a minimum capital investment by Midway of $40 million. Authorize city manager or her designee to execute the appropriate documents related to this agreement on behalf of the city and declare an effective date.
Approve.
Motion
Second.
To approve from Mr. Scott. The second came, what was it? Okay, from Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez. And I believe that Mr. Smith has some information for us.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. Christian Smith, Economic and Business Development Manager. Before I get started, I just wanted to mention that I do have representatives here from Midway, who would be the developer for this project, as well as New Waterloo, who would be the operator, to answer any questions that Council has towards the end of the presentation. Next slide. A little bit about the project. Midway is proposing a minimum 130-key full-service hotel that would include an event lawn, amphitheater, restaurant, bar, meeting and event space with a minimum capital investment of $40 million that would be located on Texas State University property at the former site of the Castro House Admission Center at 429 North Guadalupe Street. Next slide. And I just mentioned the developer and the operator, so we can go to the next slide, please. This is just an aerial of the project location, just sort of getting you oriented to the site. Again, I want to mention that this property is located on Texas State owned property, but as I go through the presentation, I will make clear to Council that this is a project that will generate property tax revenues and will be treated as essentially as a private property for the purposes of taxation. Next slide. This just shows a separate graphic just showing the flow of the site, where the hotel entry, the gateway space, and conference and event space on the site will be located in relation to the streets and orientation on the university. Next slide. I'm going to go through a few slides here that just give you an idea of the conceptual rendering to give a sense of the style and quality that the development team is proposing for this site. Next slide. So this next one just shows an idea of the kind of outdoor space, public gathering, event lawn, amphitheater. Next slide. This again is just some additional architectural renderings kind of showing what the food and beverage terrace, on-site restaurant would look like. Next slide. This is the entryway for the hotel, so you can see where cars and valet would pick up and drop off at the entrance and where the gateway to the hotel is. Next slide. This is just a table that shows the job creation operations for this project. And so the team is proposing to create between 207 and 256 jobs in a variety of capacities to service the hotel. Next slide. I'd like to mention as well that this project is in line with Council's approved strategic goals for 2025-2026 and the strategic plan for economic vitality, promoting San Marcos as a destination by expanding and supporting responsible tourism programs and promoting local commerce. Although this site is located on Texas State University property, the council-approved downtown area plan, section B.4, does call for the attraction of a downtown hotel that provides multiple economic benefits and assets downtown to service visitors to San Marcos as well as the university. Next slide. The proposed terms of the economic incentive agreement would require a minimum capital investment of $40 million for the hotel, a minimum 130-key hotel. I want to mention that as part of this, there is no rebate of property taxes, so the city, county, and ISD would have 100% property tax capture from the project. There is a proposal to have a 95% sales tax rebate over 10 years and a 95% hot tax rebate for eligible expenses over 10 years that will both draw down over time as the hotel stabilizes and the performance metrics are in place. And on a future slide, I'll show you a table of what that looks like. There's also a request for a rebate of construction sales taxes during the commencement of construction before the construction completion date. Next slide. I want to give a really quick overview of hotel occupancy taxes as they relate to this project. So all hot hotel projects face a two-part test to qualify for a hotel occupancy tax rebate. The first is those hot expenditures must directly enhance and promote tourism, the convention business, and the hotel industry. For the purposes of this project, that first criteria is met with the proposal. And then criteria 2 is that every hot expenditure must clearly fit into one of 9 statutorily provided categories outlined in state law. Next slide. So I'm going to quickly go through what some of those are, The items that you see highlighted, in bold, are items that signify that those are expenditures that the development and operations team believes that those expenses they could qualify for these rebates. So some of those criteria include, funding the establishment, improvement, or maintenance of a convention center, visitor information center, paying administrative costs for facilitating convention registration, paying for advertising, solicitations, promotions that attract tourists and convention delegates to a city or its vicinity, expenditures that promote the arts, and funding for historical restoration or preservation programs. Next slide. Some additional criteria are funding certain expenses, including promotional expenses that are directly related to a sporting event with counties with a population under 1 million, funding the enhancement or upgrading of existing sports facilities or sports field for certain municipalities, funding transportation of tourists from hotels to attractions, and signage that directs tourists to sites and attractions that are visited frequently by the hotel guests in the given city. Next slide. So the proposed incentive for this project, as I mentioned before, would initiate at a 95% rebate for hotel occupancy taxes and sales tax rebates based off of a formula on the revenue per average room, or RevPAR. That's a top-line performance metric that indicates the financial performance of the hotel as it's stabilizing. You can imagine in the beginning, when a hotel is initiating operations, it takes a little bit of time to boost the occupancy and have the rates of what you're charging on average for those rooms stabilize. So that's why this incentive is front-loaded on the beginning to help cover that gap, and then as the hotel stabilizes financially, it goes down by 25% for each of those categories. Next slide. This is just a graph that just shows exactly what I just showed on the last slide, just a different visual. So you can see around year 5 and 6 is where the developer's anticipating that stabilization. And you can see that those the percentage rebates draw down accordingly. Next slide. This project was taken to the Economic Development San Marcos Board, and the board voted to recommend this project and incentive to City Council as presented. Next slide. It's a little hard to read here, but this is a high-level table that outlines some potential revenue to the city. So the top shows the real property tax collections that would be generated. As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, there might be some questions as to a development that's on publicly owned property. This hotel project would be entering into a long-term ground lease with Texas State University. As a result of that long-term lease, that property is considered private and therefore is open to taxation. So under this agreement, the dirt or the land that the hotel sits on is still owned by Texas State University and is not subject to property taxes. The building improvements and the private property within those improvements are subject to property taxation like any other property in the city. So over the course of this agreement, 100% of that's captured. As far as the sales tax rebates goes, you can see that just like the hot tax, they're going to be front-loaded at 95%, drawing down as the hotel stabilizes. This is an estimate just based off of when we anticipate that would happen. Sales tax and hot taxes fluctuate based on seasonality and consumer trends, so it's not a dollar for dollar, but it gives you an idea of what to expect. Next slide. This just outlines the potential hot tax rebates, and I should mention that this model that you're looking at here speaks to if every dollar of hot tax that was rebated fit into one of those statutorily outlined categories, that's what the rebate would be. In actuality, it would probably be less because it's going to be for specific categories like I mentioned on the previous slide. Next slide. This table just summarizes what I discussed. So under that model, there would be a projected total rebate of about a little over $9 million, while the city would retain $1.8 million of hot tax, about $500,000 of sales tax, and $2.5 million of total property taxes. Under those conditions, you're looking at about a 50% rate of return while those rebates are taking place. This agreement term is set at 15 years to make sure that over the course of the agreement, the city is maximizing that fully actualized value while the agreement's in place. So this ROI is calculated based off of when rebates are actually being made. The full return of tax dollars would be higher if you're looking at it from the 15-year term. Next slide. Some additional points for consideration. The project is a full-service, approximately 4-star hotel. That product does not exist in San Marcos and does not really exist at this size and quality between Austin and San Antonio along the I-35 corridor. So this is a first-to-market project. This would help elevate the profile of San Marcos as a destination for both leisure and business travelers. Folks who might do business in San Marcos or somewhere along the corridor instead of potentially staying in Austin or San Antonio can stay here, stay overnight, spend their dollars locally. A project of this type can also help assist with converting day travelers to overnight stays. I know there've been a lot of conversations about people who recreate and come to visit San Marcos perhaps for a day. By increasing the supply of potential hotel amenities for travelers, it gives us an extra opportunity to help retain some of those visitors for a longer period of time, which results in higher tax revenues. As I mentioned, this product does not currently exist in the regional market, and this incentive is there to help prove up that this kind of project can sustain itself in San Marcos, and that's why there's a gap there, and this incentive is here to help plug that and make the project stable. Next slide. So these are the proposed agreement terms. The capital investment of $40 million, again, the size of the hotel, no rebate of property taxes, sales and hot tax rebates that are front-loaded at the beginning of 10 years, drawing down over 10 years based off of the performance of the hotel, a rebate of construction sales taxes, having an agreement term of 15 years, a maximum of 10 payments that ensures there's a minimum of 5 years of full tax benefit to the city while the agreement is active. There is a clawback mechanism in here. This agreement is somewhat different than some of the other ones that council's seen in the past, where it's just between, it's a little bit different in terms of there's a third party after this agreement would be actualized for the project to take off. And so there are clawbacks included here to make sure that the rebates provided by the city to the developer are repaid, and the agreement will terminate if there's a change in tax status of the property. And again, any rebates of the city to the developer for this project come after that capital investment has been made, after the hotel is operational. Next slide. Staff is recommending approval of the agreement as presented. Next slide. And this is a summary of those staff recommended terms, and I will turn it over to council. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much for a nice presentation that told us what we needed to know. I do have an amendment to the resolution, and it's simply to get the actual address into the resolution text, the part that's in all caps at the top, and then in part 1. So council, my amendment is, as you see above, to replace in downtown San Marcos with the specific address of 429 North Guadalupe Street, and replacing in downtown San Marcos with on the Texas State University campus. I guess I need to ask, I pulled the Castro building number. Is that still going to be the number that's used? Do we know?
That's our understanding.
Okay, all right. So that's my motion, and I'm looking for a second. Thank you. Mr. Scott provided the second. Are there any questions on these? Just to make things more clear, because when you're looking at stuff that was 10 years ago, you're going, what was that? So anyway, so we'll vote.
The motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you. I bought y'all a little time to formulate questions or comments if you have any on this side.
I have a couple, but I think
And
Ms. Rodriguez
Ms.
is
Rodriguez?
ready with her questions.
Yeah,
Right now.
you'll go first, then I'll go back to Mr.
Oh, I have no preference.
No, so go ahead.
Yeah, I want to go back to the slide. I think it's slide, I don't have it. I don't think they have slide numbers. The job creation operations. Right there with the wages. There we go. Is there anybody from the developer that would be available to answer some?
If you'll come to the podium, please, because we all want to hear what you have to say.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
So one of the council's priorities, well, we've talked about it at great length in many ways, is the importance of wages, and not just wages determined by current wages that are inadequate, And so for the hourly non-tips specifically, I see that the minimum starts at 16 for 2 positions. And I'm asking if you would be willing to make the minimum for those hourly non-tipped positions 18.
Yes, that's something we would consider. These statistics are from a presentation given March of this year. So the hotel would likely be delivered in about 3 years' time after design, permit, and construction.
So you're agreeing at 20 then?
I think, yeah. So it's a free market, so the hotels don't have to be competitive to attract.
Exactly.
Exactly, yes.
I would really
the right
appreciate
personnel.
20 personally. It's much easier for me as a council member to really advocate on behalf of a project like this with sufficient wages. Our people deserve it, and I think it would benefit our city greatly. And so if that's something that we can talk about as this project continues to move along before the final vote, I'd be really interested in those conversations with y'all.
Sure, we'd have to revisit the numbers and talk to the hotel operator
For
as
sure.
well. But I think in 3 years' time, 18 to 20 would be market.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and we do have second reading on this next time, so we don't have to make a change today. We can acknowledge that and get that in on the next reading.
Okay, sounds great.
Is that okay with you, Ms. Rodriguez? Okay. I'm seeing council nodding in agreement here, so.
So piggybacking off of Ms. Rodriguez's comments about that, I know, and not making accusations to present company, but I know a lot of developers and operators will agree to wage rates for full-time employees. So, I mean, I would, I guess, ask that we can codify that these rates are also extended to part-time and contract employees. And then another thing that we brought up, because one of the very first things that me and Ms. Rodriguez did upon joining this body was go to an ethics training in San Antonio, where we found out their valets were not actually receiving the digital tips that were being solicited, which then brought up, like, so on this screen, for example, on one side it says that y'all plan to employ, I think it was 10 to 14 people in parking and valet, but then they're not listed on the list of occupations. So I guess just because of that experience we had, we have a soft spot for our valet driver parkers. So we could include that. But then I also had some other questions just about the financials, which basically boils down to, do we have estimated projections for those last 5 years where there are no rebates as far as what the property sales and hot tax revenue to the city would be?
We do. I can pull it. I have it written down here, I just need to pull it. Assuming that there was no change, in other words, if you held those numbers stable at the peak of the end of the 10-year period and just held that flat for the next 5 years, you'd be looking at about $7 million in additional net revenue to the city.
That's pretty much what I calculated, so just want to make sure my numbers are right. And then just kind of an anecdotal question. Now that we know that Texas State has officially accepted an invitation into the Pac-12, do we anticipate like higher occupancy rates or whatever just because they are participating in a conference that now has opponents that are coming from further away?
I would think so. I think that would only help boost those occupancy rates. And I know there have been some discussions about the university guaranteeing a certain number of hotel nights for this project. And so I think with the addition into the PAC-10 conference, I think you would certainly see that.
Cool, thank you.
Anything else? Anybody? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I guess where did Lorenzo's comment go about the contractors and everything you just said? Like, you just kind of said it, but it wasn't like a
Well,
question.
I'm assuming it will be put into second reading and
Okay.
then.
Yeah,
So I'll catch
council,
that.
we're looking for that, for what Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez talked about, to be in the agreement.
Could we clarify just for?
So essentially, the promises they just made you are also extended to part-time and contract employees.
Okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
And that it be shown wherever it needs to be shown
Yes.
in the documentation. And then the other thing about the valet tips.
Oh, yeah. So basically just including valets in there. Because I'm assuming y'all would use contract valet. I know that's kind of standard. Well, I guess it's more for the operations, but I know it's usually standard in the hotel industry is valet, parkers, drivers, whatever, are usually not employees. I'm assuming it's for like legal reasons or insurance reasons, just off the top of my head, but I've noticed that pattern.
You're correct. Oftentimes, hotel operators do use third-party valet companies. We have a variety of implementations across our portfolio. There are properties where we have a third-party contractor, and then there's properties where we self-operate. It typically does come down to how the insurance policy on that particular property is structured. As to the questions about tips, 100% of our tips are paid out. The house keeps 0% of gratuities. And then we do extend the same benefits to part-time and full-time employees across the board. Any other questions I can answer for you guys?
We didn't even ask that one. All right. Anything else? Okay. So we will go through with the first reading as is, and then Mr. Smith will work on these things and have some amendments ready for us for next time.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The motion passes 7-0.
All right, on to item 21.
Discuss and consider appointments to fill vacancies on the following boards and commissions and provide direction to staff. A, Historic Preservation Commission. B, Housing Authority Board. C, Neighborhood Commission. D, Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee.
So I have one for the first one.
Floor is open for Historic Preservation.
James Hayes, by far. He's a teacher for any of my colleagues who, haven't, just to give y'all some time to pull it up.
Social studies teacher.
History teacher, got his degree in history. Currently teaches in SMC ISD, and just a phenomenal person all around. Like, I've seen him at many events. He's very much participates in our community. So, yeah.
It's good. I'll say I was impressed at everyone who applied for all of these spots. A lot of enthusiasm to be part of San Marcos, so that was good. But yes, I did notice that one. Anyone else? Are you ready to vote?
Oh, sorry, Mayor. Go ahead.
Are you ready, Mr. Gonzalez?
Sure.
Okay. It's 1 for 1, so,
Motion passes 7-0.
all right. And next is our Human Services Advisory Board.
I'm going to nominate Ms. Lambert because she is a social worker. And I think that's very important.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mendoza, can you repeat?
Mrs. Lambert?
Okay.
Do we have the social worker position filled right this
No,
minute?
that was Miss Lucy Gonzalez, who was just appointed a couple of months ago.
We did fill that one. Okay, so this
She's
is a
resident.
regular board
Just regular.
position. Okay.
What, Mayor,
Other nominees?
you said Human Services.
Advisory Board, yes, sir?
We're not doing Housing Authority?
Oh, I'm sorry, Housing Authority, Mayor. I am so sorry, Mr. Mendoza.
Hold on.
It's HAB.
It is housing.
Oh,
It's for Lena. Ms.
I knew that,
Me too,
but
Mayor.
my chart has H. Okay, got it.
I nominate Grecia Salinas.
Second.
Are there other nominees? All right, then in this case, this will be a voice vote back to Ms. Trevino. If you would, use the last name of the person that you wish to vote for.
Mr. Saul Gonzalez. Ms. Garza.
Salinas.
Mayor Houston.
Lambert,
Mr. Scott.
Lambert.
Mr. Mendoza.
Lambert?
Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez.
Salinas.
And Ms. Rodriguez.
Salinas.
Okay, it is 1, 2. Did I miss somebody? I got Ms. Rodriguez, Mr. Saul Gonzalez. Oh,
Ms.
yeah, I'm
Garza.
sorry, it's Ms. Salinas.
Yes. Yeah, my bad. I knew it was housing, and I was thinking we had both, and I just had them out of
I
order.
just saw HAB. Mhm.
Okay. Next is Neighborhood Commission. Yep, we have one.
I think we only have one, yeah.
For sector, we still have some other sectors open,
Sector
don't we?
3 and
Okay,
the
but this is,
apartment.
this is Sector 9.
Okay. We just have one though, right?
Yeah, I'll put the name of Jason Valdez for Sector 9. Any others? If not, the one for one.
Okay, motion passes 7-0.
And the Veterans Advisory Committee.
I'm gonna nominate Austin Croker.
Okay. Again, both really qualified. And it's nice to see people that, of the younger persuasion.
Well, I wanna see veterans, I wanna see people who've used, yeah.
Yeah,
people
well,
who know what they're
they
doing.
both got service records, so.
Mhm.
All right, anybody else?
I have to look at my notes, my bad. I don't remember.
Croker.
KK? Oh. How many people? It was only 2, right?
Only 2, but we have 2, vote for 1 slot.
That was like the very last
Yep.
last thing in the packet, right?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm fine with whatever the body decides.
Okay, so I've heard 2 people nominate Austin. I guess it's Croker, might be Craker, not sure. Yeah. Any other nominations? If not, we can vote using push button because it's 1 for 1.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, that brings us to item 22.
Okay. Discuss and
I'm sorry, just a second. Okay, go ahead.
discuss and consider the appointment of a city council member to fill a vacancy on the Carson Development Committee.
I'd like to nominate myself.
Second.
Third. I'm tired.
So you are volunteering.
I am.
Okay, anyone else volunteering or nominated? This will be a 1 for 1 then.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, item 23.
Discuss and consider the appointment of a city council member to fill a vacancy on the Criminal Justice Reform Committee.
I nominate myself.
I nominate Lorenzo. He has a criminal
Are
justice
there
master's.
any other nominations?
No.
Would you like to make, say a couple of sentences?
To advocate what?
I think since we've got two people, if you want to say a
Does he
couple-
want it, I guess, first?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think for me, this is a big, I don't think I've ever been a soft-spoken person about my interest in criminal legal system reform. This is something that while working in the Texas State Legislature, I wrote bills that are now affecting legislation around this topic. I've personally worked around various areas of the criminal legal system, such as parole, such as pretrial, such as just about all over. Not only that, I've done a lot of work locally, and I think that work speaks for itself. This is a topic that I will consistently speak about. And yeah, I would really appreciate my colleagues' support.
You want to see it? Oh, okay.
If
I
he-
mean,
I
I mean, you
he says
nominated
he
me.
wants it, we-
You want to read my address? No, I'm just kidding. So essentially, this is what I do. I have actually just completed my master's degree in criminal justice with a specialization in restorative justice and alternative to incarceration. So I mean, it's literally what I've decided, I guess, to pursue as a career. While I respect and understand my colleagues', I guess, interest in it. I just feel that I'm better suited for it, just due to my background. I mean, similarly to like, so when we initially nominated her for the legislative committee earlier in the term, I mean, I was interested in it, but because of her background working for the ledge, I mean, I didn't nominate myself knowing that she was gonna get it. Or that she was interested in it, just because I felt that she was more qualified for that role.
For me, it was, and it's no disrespect by any means, it's really just a committee. I didn't know Mr. Gonzalez just graduated with a master's degree, and I'm looking at it like we would for, not data expert, subject matter expert. Just given he's got a master's degree in it. I can't imagine what it's like to get that, but apparently, I guess I would assume that if you're just graduated, you have best practices that are being taught right now, and that kind of seems that that'd be a good to look at, since we do speak about best practices all the time.
I serve as the chair of that committee. I have gently encouraged Amanda to express her interest in this. I value both my colleagues' input. I think you guys both know that. Amanda and I bicker a lot, don't agree on a lot of things, but I do feel like me personally, that her perspective and just working with her even outside of council, I think it would be valuable. Where we're going with CJR committee agenda items, that's just my 2 cents, but I still love you, Lorenzo.
Again,
like you're dead to
isn't
me.
it great that we've got such qualified people that want to serve? Anyone else? Anything else? If not, this will be a voice vote to Ms. Trevino, and let's use the last name again.
All right. Ms. Garza.
Rodriguez.
Okay. Mayor Houston.
Rodriguez.
Mr. Scott.
Rodriguez.
Mr. Mendoza. And Mr. Lorenzo Gonzalez. Mr.
Myself.
Rodriguez.
Me.
All right. And Mr. Saul Gonzalez. All right. It is Mr. Rodriguez.
Okay, on to item 24.
Hold discussion regarding the Veterans Affairs Advisory Committee Recommendation Resolution 2025-0001RR-VAAC, requesting city council support services and funding issues affecting veterans.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lisa Morris, Recreation Programs Manager and Staff Liaison to the Veteran Affairs Advisory Committee. We have 5 of our 6 members here tonight, including our immediate past Chair, James Summers, and our current Chair, Brian Acosta, excuse me, I'm so sorry, Brian, who are here to answer questions. The committee has been working on researching and going over recommendations that they wanted to present to you for the past year, and they're here tonight to answer any questions.
Okay, and there was a wonderful list and lots of information in our packet. So I just want to mention that for those at home or wherever. And we are now ready.
I'm going to call on my fellow committee member here to speak. He's done
That's fine.
quite a bit more research, so. we're
That's
gonna call
fine.
on him.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. My name is Joseph Rodriguez. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran. I've lived out here in San Marcos since I EAS'd in 2016. I'm the newest member to the committee, or I guess second newest member after tonight. And when I began in March, I kind of came into something that was already moving and in motion in the committee. And since then, in our numerous meetings, this has been our only focus aside from our Memorial Day meeting. What we've put together here is a plan and some needs that have been identified. It is tailored to the veteran community, and I think it's important to realize that what we're asking for is not only going to affect veterans, but a larger portion of the community. Our recommendation in number one is probably our largest recommendation. The needs that this city and the larger community has extends beyond veterans, and I think it's our duty to bring it up to the council and to the city and anybody else that's listening, and what we can do moving forward. Moving forward. I'm not sure what kind of questions you guys do have. I can read this thing off to you and
It's
answer
okay,
anything
you're
on.
doing great. I was
You're doing
actually, to
fine.
help you, I was actually gonna see if our staff could perhaps pull up y'all's 4 asks, so we could see it, and I appreciate you letting us know sort of what the high-hanging fruit is.
Absolutely.
Because, you know, we're in our budget process currently, and so the timing of this is,
I think it's
It's
right on
nice.
time.
so while they take a little bit, you can,
Yeah, so in this resolution, there are 4 items, right? The largest is being, number 1, allocate funds to hire at least 1 trained caseworker specializing in veteran issues. James spoke during the citizen comment period, really speaking to the difference. I know we have veteran resources here, we have VSOs, and there's numerous amounts. During the time, in my short time being here, what I did is I reached out to several nonprofit organizations who all kind of have the same purpose, right? They all want to help the community. But what I realized is there is a lack of communication, not recommendation. They all recommend citizens and people that need help to each other, but there's not a sense of communication amongst them, right? What we really feel is that this would help to centralize and really bridge the gap between all these organizations that are really trying to reach the same purpose. I explained to them, I'm not sure how many committees all have the same goals that we're trying to accomplish here, but I'm sure we would touch quite a few committees' goals just presenting this. Recommendation 2, is it up there? Sorry. Yeah, recommendation 2 is speaking to transportation. Transportation is a huge issue here, especially in the veteran community. The VA for this area that's assigned to us is Austin, right? And it's out there near the airport, so that's kind of the drive you need to make. There's plenty of veterans in the area who can't make that drive, that commute. Maybe they're elderly, they just don't have a vehicle. That's something that affects everybody. Recommendation 3 is the Veterans Memorial, right? There were some things that have been brought to light. Lisa's worked really hard in trying to get an idea of what that would look like cost-wise. And then recommendation 4 is seeking that financial support from Hays County. We really do represent the largest veteran area in the county, and we would like some help from the county in that area. You guys have any questions I can answer?
Good, sir.
I can go on and on about number 1. That's really the one that's the driving force and what we wanted to lead with.
Thank you.
I guess my question's for staff. You know, given, like I mentioned earlier, we're in our budget process. I don't know how much an additional FTE would cost us, or if this is maybe somebody that we already may have in-house. I'm not sure. I know we're working as a council on a potential Office of Community Resources that a potential person like this could live in. But do y'all have any kind of idea on a fiscal note for the requests that are asking for?
Looked at that, HR? No, but I mean, you're talking staff and benefits, so it wouldn't be, it would be a significant amount. I would say we would need a little bit more time to analyze, but I would think most coordinator type positions, it'd probably be a good 50, 60,000 plus benefits. So, which is gonna be about another 33% is what we usually, between 33 and 35%. So that's about what that would be. So you're talking, I don't know, I don't wanna do air math and get it wrong.
Sure.
But it's a significant amount of money that we'd be
Significant amount.
talking about as a recurring expense.
And
The one-time part is not as difficult for us to try to find, because, you know, it's any money above and
benefits
beyond.
involved.
It's the recurring that makes things really difficult. But yes, I'm thinking it would be, let's see.
Because I guess my question is like, what,
Probably about 80,000 is what you're talking about, 80 to 85,000 that you
Okay.
need to budget.
Okay. Would we say it might be a conversation better suited for the next fiscal year to give y'all more time? And is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Jamie Lee
Okay.
Case, Director of Parks and Recreation. During our budget process, we evaluate all personnel requests across the department, and then ultimately, directors, team assistant directors, we all get together and kind of prioritize everybody's asks. I can tell you that there's a lot of very high priorities that are within our department as well.
For sure.
And we need to put this one in the mix.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then I guess of these though that aren't necessarily, let's see, like, because for the essential repairs, do y'all have an idea on how much those repairs and improvements may cost? I get the ongoing maintenance may be an additional conversation, but.
So there's been discussions about, well, right now, we have some issues with the tile work. Our in-house staffing has done some repairs. I don't have a good estimated cost on the total repairs. Numbers have been, 15,000 plus, which generally we don't have existing in our parks budget. When we took this on, this was not included. But then there's also the addition of the desire to include some shading, some improvements. The shading, I've gotten an estimate anywhere from $150,000 to $200,000 for that portion. We need a Space Force medallion, bronze medallion. You're looking at a couple of $1,000s there. And I think on a side note, on the committee discussed at their meetings having a desire to fundraise for this. So they even came up with a term of restoring the honor. What that would require would be council to consider changing their duties and charges to allow a fundraising effort that's not allowed currently in their duties. So around about, not specific numbers,
No,
but
I appreciate it, because one of the things I considered when I was looking at this is I know the Trump administration has slashed a lot of the grant opportunities for things like this. And so I know that requests like this are probably gonna happen in other cities, given the lack of support. So your answers very much help in my mind.
And we have been blessed. There were a group of volunteers in 2022. Mr. Norris organized a group who went out and did some serious maintenance on it that, as a stopgap. But we'll need to continue those items in the future to maintain the integrity.
Okay, so I guess Mr. Aguirre, sorry, this is my last question. When it comes to just because I don't know, when it comes to them not currently being able to fundraise, is there something prohibiting that, or is it something we can allow as a council? And, yeah, I guess those are my starter questions.
I think it would be better if the ordinance actually specified that, because we have other boards and commissions, and they don't have such duties. And the thing is, they're acting on behalf of the city as an organization. And so when they're doing that, they're representing the city, and I think it needs to be sanctioned in some formal fashion, so that there can also be parameters for that.
Sure.
That
Okay.
council should approve.
Which would include allowing but not requiring.
Yes, Mayor.
Are you finished, Ms.?
Oh, yes, ma'am, that's my last one for now.
Mr. Mendoza?
This question is for staff. Do we have any positions within the city of San Marcos that is paid by both county and by the city?
Not that I can recall. We do have, like we do an interlocal agreement with Hayes County, the university, the city, and the school district to fund the youth position. But that's housed by an outside agency, and then we pay 1/2, and then the other 3 entities pay 1/2, or 1/3 of the 1/2. So we do have that, and we also have our habitat preservation person who also is paid by the city and Texas State. So we do have some scenarios where we have shared positions with other entities. So it'd be something we could explore if that's something that council would like
Would
to.
that be the route to go, since, I mean, this is also Hayes County veterans? I mean, I want to make sure that they have access to it.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to ask questions about
Okay,
the other opportunities in town.
okay. I just wanted to bring that up to see if there's any way that, I would love for them to get this position, but I want to ensure that it is going to be funded, you know, one way or another. Since the county has a lot more than we do, I just want to see if that does have some state sustainability there.
I mean, I think we could always, if that's the council's desire, we could always ask about that and see, but it's still gonna require at least $40,000 plus $1,000. And then is that something that is housed at the city, or is it better housed at the county with the current resources that are at the county? I think I'm seeing no, they want something that's a dedicated city resource.
Okay.
I just don't know how the county, how that would work with them, because they see more than just San Marcos.
I just want to get the funding because, you know, this could be pushed off, and I don't want it to be lost in the woods.
Mr. Summers, did you have something?
Yes, I was wanting to address a little bit about like the university, which is the giant elephant in the room. There are veterans at the university as well. There are veterans at the university who are sleeping in their cars. They're going to school, sleeping in their cars, right? So veterans issues touch on all of this. And if you're looking for a place to perhaps draw some extra funding,
Yes, sir.
talk to that elephant, because I'm sure they might have just a little bit somewhere in there. And I'm not sure how aware they are of that, but that is something else that happens.
They have a veterans office with
Yeah. And-
several people in it, and haven't they won awards for what they do for
And
veterans?
that's part of what this position does, is there's a veterans office at the county, and there's a veterans office over there, and we have some small veterans grants here, but there's not a whole lot of talking to each other. Like, one of the things that they were talking about was like the transportation, right? We're right in between Austin and San Antonio. We're in that sort of dead zone where the Austin VA sort of says, oh, well, that's San Antonio or something else. So some of the veterans that live in town don't know where they're supposed to go to get those health services.
Okay.
There just needs to be some communication and coordination going on. And yeah, that'll have to be, like, the county does have that office, but those are caseworkers, but not social workers. You need a little bit more, somebody else who's a little bit more versed in what's out there.
I mean, and what we could do with the Office of Community Support and Resources, to draw on what you're talking about, we are gonna need to hire a position that's underneath there. And so it could be something that we could start with, looking to see if there's, when we post the job description, once, assuming everything gets approved for that second position, that maybe we look to see what types of veteran type background that any of them have in terms of navigating veteran resources. That could be another thing that we could look at as a starting point for the current fiscal year, again, assuming everything gets approved by council.
Okay, here's my question, is, now the university office is there to assist students who are veterans, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so they would not be, generally speaking, assisting people, veterans who are not university students? I mean, that's what it's there for, is for the students. But we do have the county office. And my question is, and I guess I need to ask the county office people, is there limited funding there that's why more people are not being served? Is it another person? What's the deal there? Because y'all been around for a long time, and it's, from what I hear, y'all are doing a really good job.
Well, I appreciate that, but we could always use the help. And
Sure.
San Marcos, there's a lot of people in our community that need help.
Yeah.
And if the city could help assist, with increased social services, and I've been hearing those discussions in y'all's budget, and budget is ultimately it's a discussion, and we're trying to start that conversation of, if the city wants to get involved with social services, let's remember our veterans and incorporate that in this social service push within y'all's budget.
Okay.
And there is
Ms.
that
Brown,
increase
I-
there, too.
Okay, so we, as the committee, had realized that, yes, there's a finite social services requirement that veterans need, that there's a ton of resources in the community. And it was like, if they called our office, oh, well, you can call this center, 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 this center. Because our office does benefits. We do veteran benefits.
Okay.
So anything outside of that, housing, transportation, medical assistance, all of those things fall outside of our actual job descriptions, and we're taking on those loads as well. Not to say that we can't do it, but we're getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And so
With more people, could you handle more stuff?
that would be a different job description.
Right, that's
So
where I was going.
what we're looking at is potentially with the social services position that y'all are looking at, you don't have to have a veteran-centric person, but maybe somebody who has a checklist of veteran-centric things.
Yes.
Thank you.
So-
That's why, yeah, that's why. I
The-
asked.
Right. We are aware that we are a finite population, that we're a very small percentage of the entirety. So what our recommendations were when we put this together, and you can see we met time over time over time to hammer this out, was we're addressing and try to put a thumb on the things that y'all are already currently working on and go, hey, a little bit more of a nudge in that direction. Just because we're veterans, we have a different kind of platform to stand on to wave the flag, right? And we are aware that transportation is a problem in the community because we've seen the surveys go out through the city. We've seen the surveys go out through the county. We know that it's being talked about. So here's one more layer to add to that of veterans have a problem getting to their appointments. Veterans aren't able to get to healthcare. It's not offered here.
Right.
So they either have to go to San Antonio, which is ACOG, or they have to go to Austin, which is CAPCOG. And guess where we fall in the middle of?
Right.
Yeah.
We literally, our office down here downtown is a 2-mile difference between if you go to Austin for care or if you go to Audie Murphy. We have to ask people, where do you live, so we know where you get care from? And those are two different systems, two different services, and guess what? They look at San Marcos and go,
Okay, and a question is, our veterans organizations, of which we have more than one, I seem to recall that there were volunteers who would assist with driving veterans to medical appointments in many years past.
from my VFW standpoint, I would say 80% of my veterans are 75 plus. Those are the people who are needing rides.
More needing rides than can provide rides.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. I'm glad you mentioned that because during my campaign, I was hitting the doors and it was a lot of people who brought the transit situation and concern up. People don't have access. So thank you for like tying in what we're doing budget-wise to how this is applicable right now. I guess my second question, I know we're currently, to your point, I know we're currently finalizing the, I either get it transit or
study.
transportation,
It's
however.
transit study.
And not necessarily explicitly about veterans, but travel to care was something that was discussed, thankfully by my colleague, Ms. Garza, as an item of deep importance to us in finding out ways in which we can address that. Is this something that we can make sure that that exists within that study as far as recommendations are concerned?
We can definitely, Mr. Avila is here, and I know he can be poised to answer that question.
Okay.
His office is overseeing that transit study. Mr. Avila, towards,
Fabas Avila, Director of Public Works. Yes, ma'am, that is something that we can include in the study that we're currently conducting with TxDOT. Yes, that is something we can do.
Okay, great. Because I imagine those results will end up affecting our decisions fiscally. And
Correct.
so, okay, just making
that
sure
was,
that's.
that was the thing with the equity cabinet, and then also looking at with this transit study. The other thing is, yes, the HSAB, as long as council continues to fund at that higher level, that's gonna be an available resource for some of the needs that y'all are talking about that can definitely be applied for. And then I do believe that the community resources and support person, we can work with y'all to determine what are those needs, because it's not gonna be unlike, some of the other things that other members of our community are gonna be looking for, but there may be some specialized services for veterans that we just wanna make sure we have on our radar and can work with Ms. Bettis Carey and whoever is in that role as well, to be able to help work through that. So yes, we can definitely have those conversations.
And let's not forget carts. At one time, they were providing rides for folks to go to medical appointments. Well, this is somebody needing to go to a medical appointment. I'm not sure what the status of that is,
The thing
but
is
let's
that-
not lose
that-
sight of other outside
Right.
opportunities.
I think a missed thing there is like, there are a lot of barriers that exist for individuals, veterans or otherwise, in using carts, right? So it's like, I think that sometimes we just like get this big packet and it's like this whole review of current services and whatever. But unless you're talking to those individuals who are trying to get to where they need to go, we don't have like, we don't understand the fullness of the barriers. I would even say that there's barriers to using carts, or there's like limitations to like how much they will go out to certain areas, or like you get like 2 a week, or I've heard all these different stories. So I just want to name that there's a lot of barriers to those.
I get that it's not, it's not the solution, but it might be part of a larger
Yes, ma'am.
solution. I need to go to Mr. Mendoza.
Thank you. Mr. Prather, Ms. Brown, I've got a question for you guys. My father was your predecessor to your position, Mr. Prather. What happened to the program that was in existence back in the early 2000s, run by Mr. Tom Tordick, that was providing VA vans to Audie Murphy and to all the locations? What happened to that program?
Yeah, so we got 2 vans through TxDOT, but we had to turn those vans over due to maintenance issues. They were becoming unreliable. One was 12 and the other one was 15 years old, and the reliability of those vehicles, we had to turn them back over to TxDOT.
Was the program defunded by the county?
No, we took that position and we made that to a veteran specialist so we could focus on claims and benefits that coincided with the passage of the PACT Act. We wanted to focus purely on benefits.
Has there been any talk at?
There is an upcoming TxDOT grant in 2027 that we're interested in applying for. Yeah.
What about on the commissioner's side there? I mean, since they were the ones that were,
Yeah.
I mean, they even hired Tom to do this job by himself. Are they just completely just, hey, I don't want to do that anymore? You guys find another source of funding for that?
No, I think our goal was to focus on benefits and homelessness reduction and emergency financial assistance.
Okay, has the idea been brought back to the Commissioner's Court about reinstating that program? About the transportation? 'Cause
No, not particularly, no.
is there a reason why?
Well, right now, we're looking to obtain future grants to address that, so we're looking at the 2027 grant.
Okay, so if you guys do get grants from that, would you still need us to really push for this?
The Kyle model where they utilized, the Ubers and the reimbursements for that, when people say there's no transportation, like, well, there's a patchwork of transportation. The South Texas VA healthcare system provides shuttles to pick up and go to medical appointments through a program called Vet Ride. The Central Texas VA healthcare system does not.
Okay.
If a veteran has a 30% disability, they can take a taxi or an Uber, but there's a $16 monthly deductible. So let's say that trip was $40, they're only gonna receive $24. So there's a patchwork of transportation options, but what we're looking for is something real nimble that can address if there's a community care appointment here in town, or, not the shuttle aspect of, hey, we're gonna have a shuttle go, every Wednesday or Friday to Austin, but something more nimble, like I have an appointment that week, can we utilize, the Uber concept to help address that immediate need?
Okay, so it's not so much about going to Audie Murphy or the stations we have in Austin, it's local here.
Community care is really, so the VA used to be, you had to go to the VA facilities. And then with the inaction of community care, more of those appointments are starting to take place in our local communities. How do we get, especially elderly veterans, to those particular appointments? And I think the Uber model, what Kyle did, would be a good way to address that.
Okay, so I've just been always curious about, that program was so successful, and then all of a sudden it was just gone, and it was like, even Tom was like, what the heck?
What program was called? Oh, the van.
Well, I'm sorry, would you get next to the microphone, please? Because I'm having trouble hearing you.
So maintenance wasn't built into the grant, and fuel costs were mileage coverage of the driver. But when it came time for the 110 and 150, and then the ramp broke, and there was needed 4 new tires, and it started coming to heavy maintenance on it, there was no funding for it. There was literally not a line item. And it wasn't part of the transportation program built into the county. So it wasn't on the same kind of maintenance package. We were having to facilitate all of that ourselves.
Okay.
But like, carts, you know, they have like fleets of vehicles, and if one breaks down, they can replace it, you know, with another one, or take parts off one to another, you know, but when you have a dedicated bus, it just gets more difficult with the reliability of like, hey, it's down, it's in the shop the next 2 weeks, that kind of stuff.
Okay, thank you.
And what was the source of funding for those
TxDOT.
vans?
There's a TxDOT grant.
And you're looking at another one in 2027? Was there one in between?
There's some state grants, but not this particular TxDOT grant. There's a state grant through the Texas Veterans Commission for transportation. We also have a grant that can do transportation. It's limited in scope. You know, we're talking, you know, in the thousands of dollars versus the tens of thousands of dollars that a larger transportation program would cost.
So TxDOT isn't opening this up until 2027?
Yeah.
Y'all are waiting for the opportunity.
Right, no, we went for a state grant to do financial assistance, like rental assistance, mortgage assistance, utility assistance. That's the grant we went for this current fiscal year.
I'm talking about the vehicle grant.
There is no vehicle grants currently right now.
I know, that's what I'm trying to confirm. There's nothing now, and that's why you're waiting till 2027.
Correct.
That's what I'm trying to
Yeah.
verify. Is there any hope between now and 2027?
Like I said, we have a limited grant that can do the Ubers right
Yeah.
now.
But not purchase a vehicle?
No, we had no capital purchases.
Yeah, how often does TxDOT do that? Is there a regular schedule, or?
I couldn't answer that off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fine.
Mayor,
Thank you.
Can I ask one question, Mayor?
Sure.
So with your grant that's doing the Uber and things like that, is that something that, you know, could apply for HSAB funding to do a stopgap measure? Because I do know that our transit study is going to look at the on-demand service component and make recommendations about what you're talking about. But I'm wondering if even, again, if council's approving this additional funding, is that something that could help as a stopgap measure to ask for additional grant monies to help y'all with the Uber while we complete the study and make those recommendations and get those decisions? So that's a thought that I just wanted to
Like I said,
ask about.
Any help that we can get from the city would be greatly appreciated. You know, this is a collaborative effort. You know, of course, we service all the veterans and their families throughout Hays County, but in San Marcos, there's a greater demand for those services.
So I have a question about your Uber program. The one in Kyle is very specific. It's like geofence, and it's like they're locked into a certain rate, and they get like certain allocations every month and whatever. Your money to go to your Uber vouchers, is it just like you're just paying like regular Uber fees, or you have like a special?
No, just regular Uber fees.
Oh, yikes. Okay. Yeah. I had suggested to this council during our ARPA money conversations that we should explore like those Uber partnerships programs. Like we didn't get bites here, but I do know that you said like you're looking for something nimble, like something to just like meet the needs, even getting to your doctor's appointment and stuff. I do think that those Uber vouchers are really helpful, because then we don't have folks like depending on like, I have to walk over here. Like it's just a lot more efficient, I guess. The only thing is like, if there's ways to explore how we can make it so that it is locked into like a deal like Kyle has it, I feel like that might be better, but I also don't know.
I think that it's a better option, because, you know, when you have the van and, you know, we leave on Wednesday's model, especially where we're at, where like, well, some people will have their appointments in San Antonio, some people have theirs in Austin, some people have a community care, you know, like it's hard to make a dedicated run and, you know, have more than like 1 or 2 or 3. You want to keep like a, you know, so I really think that the nimble approach with the Uber concept, you know, I think that's a more, efficient way to address it.
Right. I agree.
Address the patchwork of transportation
Right.
options.
I agree. As also somebody who has had like experience of not having a vehicle, I feel like it is, I mean, any form of transportation is like a blessing, but being able to tap into it on your own time, make sure you're getting where you have to be, like not having to depend on all these other stops and everything, can really help, especially with like folks that get anxiety, even going to like their doctor's appointments and all of that. But yeah, I just was throwing that out there. Be something to explore how we
You're already
could.
nervous about going to the doctor, trying to figure out how to get there, just too much.
But we understand, this is the budget discussions, and we would like to start that conversation about the city getting involved in helping veterans. It may not be this fiscal year, but we want to start that conversation now.
Yeah. And
Okay.
I just feel anything that we put towards to help veterans is to help the most vulnerable. Like it's to help the people who need it the most, right? Like if we can figure out how to bridge the patchwork of transportation, it helps everybody in the long run. So like to invest in our veterans is to invest in all of us, I feel.
And I just really want to highlight again that it is, as a Veterans Affairs Committee, we're presenting this for veterans, but this is extending well beyond just that framework of the community, right? Transportation, homelessness, hunger, it affects many people in the community, and we're just the ones wanting to bring this forward, right? The position that we're recommending is someone, it is a numbers discussion, right? And I completely understand that, but if it is the type of discussion where we say, hey, look, this is what it requires, these are the grants that are available once this position is up and running, and then it's a self-funding position that can, and provide guidance to these organizations that are all trying to help the same people in the community. They just lack that centralization and that communication. That was my biggest, in the small amount of time that I had to research everything, is I learned there is a heavy lack of communication amongst these folks, right? And they all need the same thing. They all need money. They all have a heart of gold, but they just don't have the funds to do it, right? So if you have somebody who's in the city who has oversight on these grants and on this funding and can say, hey, we're distributing this to you, even though you're in San Antonio and you say you're helping our city here, we want to make sure you're helping our city here, right? And I came across some things like that. So I think it would be very beneficial to the city in extending well beyond the veteran community.
Awesome. Yeah.
Mr. Scott?
Yeah, if you had the transportation, if you had the buses or the vans, are you trying to get away from that product entirely? Are you trying to not take veterans as the liaison for the benefits? Are you trying to create a separate entity for that?
Rephrase your question.
Okay, so if you had all the transportation taken care of, like we gave you all vans to drive, would you still be nominating yourselves to take veterans? Or is that something you're trying to get away from?
Oh, like if we were to hire someone to do that, like I said, I think the more nimble approach of like utilizing rideshare options, but having like within the municipal fleet or the county fleet, some type of wheelchair accessible vehicle. Not just for veterans, just for anyone in the community that needs wheelchair accessible vehicles. But I really think the rideshare option is probably like I said, more efficient way to handle the patchwork
How-
of transportation options.
How many ride shares can handle the wheelchairs, et cetera?
Well, so there's like,
Does Uber have a
no,
special?
not Uber, but there is like, basically like they're like an ambulance style van that, that they can pick people up.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering if we can use our leases that we use on vehicles, and perhaps maybe it'd be economical to donate the vehicles, and then have the maintenance on the vehicles done through our regular lease program. Maybe there's something that can be done in that area.
How often are lease vehicles sitting in a parking lot?
I don't think a lot of them are, especially like the passenger.
Well, I'm not
kind-
saying I'm saying you get new vehicles.
Yeah, he's
not the
saying
ones
get
we
new
currently
ones.
have.
The only thing I would
And
say.
I'm asking if we got some that we're not using for 40 hours a week now, but both questions are valid.
I think that one of the things that we're going to be looking for is cost savings on our lease purchase vehicles, so that's something we'd need to evaluate and see if there's some stuff, I mean, like, that's one thing we want to try to reduce. So we would just need to look at that. We can always explore it and see what that means. I think it's worth exploring and just see what it looks like. But I do think there are other avenues out there for us to look at without taking on a recurring cost that's going to have.
Well.
Well, I'm surprised
and
Carts doesn't have that.
They actually do, or they did, but
I
while.
thought they did.
While
yeah.
Mr. Avalu's coming up to the microphone, just remember, if we're gonna have vehicles, we've got to have drivers, and that's another expense. Mr. Avila, enlighten us.
The city of San Marcos and CARTS provide an interurban bus that runs from San Marcos to Austin. In Austin, you can transfer to Cap Metro and take a Cap Metro bus to the Veteran Affairs offices.
And the cost for that is?
I do not know the cost off the top of my head, but the time is probably about an hour and a half.
And the Cap Metro buses go to the veteran medical facilities?
Yes, ma'am.
I would think so, but, okay. So, but there is a cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Carts doesn't have vans or anything that they use, shuttle.
Within the city has a paratransit service, so you can schedule that paratransit in advance, and it will take any individuals to the hospital or any other medical services with that van and with advanced scheduling.
Is that a free service or is that a cost service? If
It's a free
cost service. Oh, it's free?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That sounds good
So
too.
advanced scheduling, and that is a
A
specialized van?
paratransit vehicle. It's a
And that's-
light-duty vehicle with a wheelchair lift
Right, and that's available through CARTS,
through the city of San Marcos.
but does it come from CARTS? Is it related to CARTS in any way?
We contract with CARTS for our transit service.
Yeah.
But the service in San Marcos is the city's transit service.
So you would contact somebody here?
Yes.
Not at Cap Metro, I'm sorry, not at CARTS?
Correct.
Y'all
And
utilize
that phone
that?
number is?
That's like, have
I will
y'all
provide
utilized
that to you. I'm sorry?
I just wondered if veterans have utilized that service at all
It's utilized quite a bit in San Marcos, yes, sir.
by veterans?
I don't know what the demographics of it is, but that paratransit service stays busy. In fact, you probably need to book your appointments at least 3 to 4 days in advance to make sure that you can meet your appointment.
So maybe we need more transit buses or whatever.
Could be, and that's what we're looking at. We're currently undergoing a route study with TxDOT. TxDOT is actually paying for the study for the city of San Marcos, but we're looking at all of those metrics and reviewing all of the comments that we received from the city to develop a new route and transit service that best suits the city.
Yeah, because if you're saying you already looked at months in advance with this thing, it means we are insufficient on the amount of vehicles that we have to do the job, so.
I'm sorry, not months in advance, days in advance.
Well, whatever, I'm just giving an example.
Yeah.
You're booked too far out, you need to be more flexible. So if you don't, by flexible, you need to get more transportation vehicles, become flexible.
And I think that's the thing, is trying to get the information, because we hear the need. It's just that there are some things that are in kind of in development right now, that it's trying to make sure that we kind of understand what coverage that's going to provide with the transit study. If there's HSAB money for the Ubers, if there's the community support and resources office that can have some checklists that we can work with them on, then I think those are some avenues that are better than what we have today, that we can work on, that are avenues that y'all are considering in your current budget. So I think those are the things that we just need to work through and understand, because the lease purchase, if we're trying to reduce our fleet, that would be another, but then also when it comes to the city purchasing something and risk management and insurance and all those other kinds of things, if it's a city asset, there's a lot of different things that make this, where the paratransit seems like it takes care of those kinds of considerations, but it may be that we need more of them, like you're saying, Mr. Scott, to have more available.
Yeah, because you already have those same liabilities with the one you already have.
Right, that's what I'm saying with paratransit, but if we were to buy a vehicle, in other words, a lease purchase, and we were to give it to another organization
Oh, okay, yeah.
and have it on our liability
No, I was-
insurance,
yeah, we've
that
already
could be a
seen it
problem
buy
for us.
some more.
But,
One
yeah,
other resource is the Capital Area Council of Governments Area Agency on Aging. It's not going to be there for your 30-year-old veteran, but it is for your 65, 70-year-old veteran. And so just another, something to put in the mix. Okay.
Mr. Avila, I had a question about, I guess, the paratransit example we just gave. So I'm understanding correctly that essentially gets a San Marcos veteran from, well, I guess a San Marcos resident, from San Marcos to Austin, but then subjects them to the Austin public bus system, correct? In order to get to their final destination. So they're essentially just gonna get to a transfer station and then become a Cap Metro customer for the day to then take Austin's public bus to wherever it is they need to go, correct?
Let me clarify. So we actually have two services. One service is the paratransit service that serves San Marcos.
Okay.
San Marcos will provide paratransit service to disabled or senior veterans to any medical facility in San Marcos.
And that's a point A to point B.
Yes, sir.
Right.
From their home to their appointment. We have another service that's called our interurban service.
Okay.
So our interurban runs from San Marcos to Austin. And there is a cost to that. I apologize, I'm not I don't know what that cost is. I believe it's $6 a ride. But it connects to Cap Metro's system. And so in Austin, you can do a transfer to Cap Metro and take that to the veterans' offices.
But that service would require the person to get to a San Marcos bus stop
Right.
and then eventually end up at an Austin bus stop to then transfer to an Austin bus
Yes,
to
sir.
get to the final destination.
Yes, sir.
And then besides all that, that I guess takes care of half our veterans, but the ones that need to go to Audie Murphy to San Antonio, we have no existing service for, correct?
That's correct.
Cool.
Yeah, and doing the interurban thing is not going to be for everybody. I'm glad it's there, but. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Real quick question. It might have been asked already. I apologize. I had to step out. We haven't had a bathroom break. Have y'all had conversations with the county? Because I get the whole point that it's not in your job description.
So we did have a transit we had two vans that were grant funded, and they had come to a point in repairs and necessity that the grant did not cover, that we were gonna have to figure out funding for. So,
And when y'all presented them with that concern, what was the response?
so this was not a reverse back to the county, and that's a Jude question.
Like the vans aged out. They, like I said, they were 12 and 15 years old, and we just turned it back to CapCog, and then took the driver's position and made it to a veteran specialist position so we could focus on benefits.
Okay.
So
But so that,
CapCog, did you mean TxDOT?
Correct. Sorry.
so the ask though wasn't, like a continuance of the program. Is that what you were asking earlier, Ms. Mendoza?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. So there wasn't an ask specifically though for a continuance of that program?
No.
Is that something that y'all are pursuing? Because I do see on number 4, seeking financial support, and it seems to be a 2 parts, ask. What's the vibe, for lack of better terms?
So, like I said, we're looking to acquire new grants. Keep our existing grant for emergency financial assistance. That one, I think, has been making a lot of changes in people's lives. For example, the homelessness rate, according to the PIT count from last year to this year for veterans, has dropped significantly. And we think it's a variety of factors. The VA provided housing vouchers. We had a grant that provided rental assistance, homelessness prevention efforts, working with other nonprofits like Home Center and other agencies, the Homeless Coalition. It was a dialed-in effort the past 2-3 years of we're going to address veterans homelessness in our community. We were able to drive those numbers down significantly. That was our office's pivot from, were we going to have this part-time transportation program, or are we going to focus on benefits? And so we focused on benefits.
Okay. And was that decision a decision y'all made internally or were guided towards?
We basically had the position regraded, different job descriptions. We still incorporate transportation. So if someone calls our office and says, and we have enough lead time, like, oh, this is 2-3 weeks away from now, we can, especially if it's an elderly person, we will make sure we'll get them to that appointment. Like I said, when I keep talking about, there is transportation options. It's just a patchwork of different things from the VA, from utilizing, like, if you take a taxi or an Uber, you can submit for reimbursement, but not everyone qualifies for that. So there is a patchwork of transportation options through the VA. What this ask was, this one of 4, I think the most important one was, the city adding a social service person, or incorporate the social services push that the city's currently doing to incorporate, hey, how are we addressing the veterans and their families in our community with this effort? And then also, the memorial, repairs and renovations to that. But transportation was another, hey, if we're shooting for the moon, or for the stars and we land on the moon, we're kind of, what are some other things we would like to bring to the council's attention of how could we help veterans in our community? So
Sure.
transportation was one of them.
Yeah, and a big reason I ask is I kind of wanted to get a gauge on how much the county's general fund contributes to y'all's operation, and how much that's changed over time. Because I know number 4, I don't know if that's specifically for us, but one of the things that I personally would be interested in is talking with certain commissioners to see
About the memorial?
About the memorial,
Yeah.
but also even, the transportation. I hear y'all on the transportation need. I don't think that's lost on any of us, but I don't want us to fund something and it be exclusionary to people here, knowing that many other people could benefit from something countywide. And if there is a conversation that even I can personally have to get the commissioners to understand this needs to be a countywide effort, as far as transportation is concerned, even the memorial, given that it was mentioned earlier, it serves the county.
And it's the Hayes County Memorial.
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. That's something I wouldn't mind doing. Now, the caseworker and stuff, I appreciate y'all mentioning high-hanging fruit. I don't disagree, which is why I think the timing of it just works, given the new office that I hope we can continue to follow through with. But I'd be interested in pursuing something like that. Might be a little bit more cost-effective, but also might be able to actually expand it, like I said, for the whole county and benefit everyone.
That's where I am. I mean, we're San Marcos. There's a lot of people, veterans in San Marcos, but there's a lot of people with a San Marcos address that do not live inside the city of San Marcos.
They live in Caldwell County or?
Well, I'm just talking about Lime Kill Road and, other places. And so if we're, what we do is generally limited to people inside the city. And so I hate for somebody to call and go, well, do you pay taxes here? Do we do this? And then, no. I think a countywide solution is way better. So, not opposed to looking, at what we can do, but, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it, like however we can support that formally. I know in the past we've done resolutions. I don't mind.
I need to go talk to him first.
Yeah, I don't mind pursuing discussions with that.
I'll do that.
And then, as far as the caseworker is concerned, thank you, Jamie, for the additional information. Given that it's a supplemental request, I definitely look forward to us pursuing something like that come next fiscal year. And if there's any kind of commitment, if that's something that all of us agree on, of course, that we can give them right now to let them know that that's something that we'll keep as a priority, I'd be interested in that too.
Okay, so let me,
Sorry, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Just one, I guess, kind of general comment, from what I've been observing. Regardless of what we fund or don't fund, it sounds like another issue is also like a coordination of benefits and communication between, so what's immediately coming to my mind is, I guess, something similar to like the Core 4 partnership that we have. I'm assuming the school would not be a part of this, but I don't know, my colleagues are interested in maybe exploring something where it's a joint committee between county, the university, and the city, just to be able to coordinate those benefits and maybe possibly even have this caseworker work for that entity where they're familiar with all three organizations' services and can direct people accordingly.
because if you get the university involved and volunteers there, maybe there's your younger folks that help the older.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Okay, Ms. Reyes, let me ask, everybody here, are we up for this discussion, for looking at all options, or at least many options, to see where we can go? We're all yes. Ms. Reyes, do y'all have, I'm not gonna say do y'all have enough to go on, because I know you, we've talked about a lot of stuff.
I mean, if
But-
council's ready to move forward with us, looking at the Office of Community Support that we talked about, if we will, obviously guide them through an HSAB process, if there's anything you would like
Right.
to see with that. We can definitely talk with the county and Texas State to see what types of things that can be offered there. If there's some kind of partnership that we're willing to work on. So we can definitely talk to them on that. And then, was there anything else that y'all wanted to, because we're gonna do the transit study and we're gonna get that. So we
When
can
is
take
that
a look
due?
at that. Sabas, what's the time frame on the transit study?
So, the current schedule right now is to complete the transit study by the fall semester. However, to be upfront with you, TxDOT is having some issues with the consultant, and so there may be some changes associated with that contract, so it may be longer.
Okay, that's fine, just need to know.
And then also to explore additional paratransit options. That was the other thing that I heard, was to look at that and see if there's additional options that we can do, maybe offer an additional, if we have one or whatever it is that has to be scheduled 3 to 4 days, to see if there's another one that
Yeah.
we can add in, if there's that
I'm
demand.
having deja vu conversations at the Homeless Coalition. There's a lot of services, never enough, but there's a lot of services. It's navigating your way through, and, having deja vu here.
And that's what's gonna be really important with Ms. Bettis Carey and her office, to start working through those things and make sure that people know there is gonna be a central point of contact at the city, to make sure that if you have concerns, whether you're a veteran or you're anyone else within the community, that's the type of stuff that we want. And so it's very important for us to work with coordinating those services with y'all and understanding, where are the gaps and how can we help to try to do that. So we can definitely work with Ms. Brown and Mr. Prather, and any of you that are interested, Ms. Morris, that want to do that, then we can definitely look and see what those gaps are.
I appreciate it. And it sounds like that's something that you guys are already moving forward in that type of position.
Yes.
And all the overlap, like Mayor Houston said, and she's having deja vu, it's exactly that, right? It is these overlapping communities, and we just happen to be one of them and trying to represent as many of them as we can through this
Yes.
resolution.
And council, just so y'all know, council already has in the proposed budget that we're gonna be bringing back, they already have this position in there. And so it's redoing this position, and then we're also gonna be hiring a second person that can help. So it's not an office of one person, it's two, and so that they can work with that. So that's already in the budget that's gonna be proposed to mayor and council, as well as the additional HSAB funding that we talked about for Human Services Advisory Board. So that will be another avenue for being able to ask for some of these stopgap measures when it comes to some of the transportation that y'all talked about.
Yeah.
So there are those things that are in there, then the transit study, and then we'll look at these additional things.
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sure moving forward, the committee would like to be at least involved in creating some type of checklist. You know, if
Yes.
it's the same thing
Sure.
with homeless, things like that.
We
at least
need y'all's expertise
with-
because
Yes.
y'all are gonna know better than anybody, you know, to really know what those things
Yeah.
are. So we're definitely open to working, and so we can get, together with Ms. Morris to get y'all's contact information and get y'all together with Ms. Pettis Carey to work on what those look like.
Thank you.
Y'all are here now, you're not getting out of this. We need you.
That's good. Thank you.
We look forward to working together with y'all and seeing what we can identify within the confines of what is already being proposed in the budget, because there are some things that we want to do to try to help our community as a whole.
Yes,
So
ma'am. I appreciate it.
that includes y'all, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, council, I'm going to declare a recess till 8:50. You mean like, go home? Returned from our break, it is 8:52, and we are going to move on to item 25.
Yes. Hold discussion regarding the recent announcement by the U.S. Department of Labor with reference to a phased pause in operations by June 30, 2025 at all contractor-operated Job Corps centers nationwide, including Gary Job Corps, and sending a letter of support from the City Council for continued operations.
Okay, council, I put this on here quite some time ago. I know that there have been some things happen. The operators group has gotten together and gotten is it TRO, temporary restraining order? They've gotten something. And that has given us some more time, or given more time for the Job Corps. So if we could get some information about where we are with the one here, and whatever you can tell us will be appreciated.
So before
Yeah.
Rob Fitch give an update, he did have some conversation earlier this morning with some of the directors at the site here at Job
Okay.
Corps.
All right.
And so I think he's going to have some really good information.
All right.
But just early on in the conversation, we did have a conversation with the group. At this time, there's about 480 students at the site. About 400 of students, when they was talking about actually phasing down the location, about 400 students could go back to their home state, their home city.
They had a place to go.
They did, and about 20% of them was going to need some support. Of those 20%, about 70% of them were men, and about 30% of them was women.
Okay.
Garcelle, with our community resource and also through our emergency management, started having some very critical conversations, start to network and collaborate with some of the sites, nonprofits here in town. BR3T were able to take in several applications of the applicants at the site in regards to assistance with down payment and also hotel overnight accommodations. Also, there were a nonprofit out of Austin that provided resume training and interviewing training for a lot of the staff people at the location as well, too.
Yeah, because a lot of people have been there a long time.
Yes. And then also the emergency management also had a contact through the state with their state resources there from emergency management that was willing to support. So, but he does have a good update that he'll share with you.
Okay, that's good, but I'll tell you the ones that I'm really, I'm concerned about everyone, but that one is the housing. That was the airbase housing. I have not been there. I thought maybe it was 15 or 20. It's over 90. And that's a lot of people, that's their homes, they've been there a long time, and so that's of great concern also.
Absolutely.
Give us some late-breaking news, sir.
Okay. I'm Rob Fitch. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for the City of San Marcos. I talked with the HR Director of the Job Corps this morning. As far as the court case goes, they did get to stay, but it's
Right.
still in court.
Right.
So it can be decided at an A time. They decided at this point to go ahead and invite all the people that they sent home back. So all the students that were already enrolled are coming back. They said about 25% have already returned at this point. Also talking with her, they finally got on board with making a plan if something does happen. So they are working together with our partners in COAD, Public Health with TDM. So we are kind of working that way. We offered our assistance today if they need help in designing a plan and what to do if they have to close. So that's where we're standing at this point.
Okay. But the actual, when that will happen is
That's
unknown, and I'm
unknown,
afraid
right.
there'll be very short notice.
And that's my biggest concern is that the court might go ahead and turn around and say, nope, you have to vacate, and we're gonna be right back to square one.
Right.
And especially with them inviting everybody back. So, I don't think that was a very good plan, but that's my opinion, so, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
remind me, this decision was made through an executive order, correct? Or,
Decision was made under the Biden administration prior to the new administration. So they've had approximately a year. But now, I don't want to throw San Marcos Job Corps under the bus in the sense that they weren't prepared, because I checked on a couple of other sites. Palmer, Alaska, for example, has a Job Corps, and they didn't prepare for this either. So
What's
kind
this,
of
a year ago thing?
they've known for about a year that they were going to close.
that's news to me.
That's news to me.
I was under the assumption it was a executive order.
Yeah.
No, it was just continued on. It was
Because
actually.
the reason I ask is the recent Supreme Court decision
Mm-hmm.
pretty much tells lower courts that if the executive branch makes a decision, lower courts' injunctions and those things are honestly like a moot point at this point. So I was wondering how that would
That might affect it.
react with the temporary restraining order.
That's true. It might now, because the Supreme Court gave the clearance, the executive order to go ahead and continue. That might affect them. Hopefully, Job Corps is preparing for this. Like I said, we offered our services, help them in a preparedness plan. But again, we're just holding our breath and seeing what's going to happen at this point.
For sure. And I know the legislative committee has gotten some updates. We have our legislative consultant following this very closely. Is there anything from his end that's changed thus far or no? No?
None.
Okay. Okay. Well, Mayor, thank you for putting this on the agenda, because I've had a lot of people reach out with just absolute hysteria over this. Both people that are employed there. I mean, it's just going to uproot. It's going to be a massive, massive social, humanitarian issue, in my opinion.
Yep.
So it brings me great comfort to know that y'all are planning just in the case that things do fall through. But still, it's deeply disappointing.
Yeah, but when you got on your list, find housing for 90-something families, how you actually get that done with is,
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
know there were people on both sides of the parties on Capitol Hill that were expressing deep, deep, deep disappointment, because this, like, to your point, does affect their communities too.
Right. I think the bright spot of all this is that we got a good coalition of people, BR3, COAD, Public Health with Hayes County, and ourselves, all working together trying to solve this one issue. So it's not, they're not standing alone. They can't face it themselves. We're helping them out.
do we know, again, going back to the 90-plus
Right.
families living out there, if those folks will be given more time? You know, they say the Job Corps is closing in 30 days. Will they get 60, 90, 180 in order to vacate?
Yeah, we don't know at this point, because they were given before, they were given the families were given till the end of the month versus the students that were given till like the 15th.
Right.
So we don't know what the new rules will be at
Yeah,
this
and
point.
I don't know how many other Job Corps might be located on a former Air Force base and have housing there. You know, we may be the only one that's even a factor, and it's not something that's being considered by the people who should be considering it. I'm not sure exactly who that is, but that's a huge concern. So at this point, I don't know that, you know, if there's options for a letter of support to continue the Job Corps that trained may have left the station. But at this point, I don't know if the letter of, I assume that they will be, the company that's contracting now, will be pleading that case to
Yes, ma'am.
the
I would
federal
assume so.
government. and-
Since this is not just a local, this is a national issue.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's
I
been,
think the housing may be more local, though,
yeah, for us, yes.
for us. So, and then housing of the staff. So I'm not sure, like I said, I put this on a while ago, when things looked a little bit different. So I'm not sure what we could do at this point, but I'm glad we're having the discussion.
You know, I would say at this point, if we can keep our committee groups together, the co-eds and the public health, and really start a good preparedness plan, go on the assumption that they will close, and then we can figure out what we're gonna do with housing. I think that's our best bet at this time.
No, y'all are doing great, thank you. And I didn't expect that y'all would wait on us in order to start making plans. You didn't, and that's great. So, council, what do you think? We can just, it looks like staff's on top of it, and for which I'm very grateful. And we may just, that may be where we need to go. Yes, ma'am.
I would just like more information, though, on them knowing this for a year. Everything I have seen has been very much, especially in our meeting with the legislative committee, that this was a surprise within this administration.
Well, you know, of course, I'm not going off on anything but the word of the HR director who advised me of this, so we could double check, make sure what the actual timeline that they were given and when it was cut. But it still stands to reason is that it doesn't matter when it happened.
Oh,
we
for
know
sure, for
that-
sure. It's just like, but
Right.
the whole them knowing for a year would just dramatically change the course of this conversation.
Yeah.
And so that's why when I heard it for the first time,
People should have been moving out of those 90
yeah,
plus.
well, the people I've talked to that are employed through Gary said that this was something that just happened in their words overnight.
Yeah.
It was a complete shock, something they didn't know about. So
Well, I know the HR director, she had just been hired, so
Okay.
she was caught off guard on it. so-
Nobody mentioned this when we were at the DOL last year.
yeah.
Nothing, so,
Yeah, I talked to a couple of people from Gary and Inada.
well, Randolph Goodman seemed pretty caught off guard as well, so
Yeah.
Well, and we can always look and do some more research. I know that it did say that Biden had ordered a few of them to be closed, but it seemed like then maybe there were more and I don't know upon whose order that was given. So it's just a matter of how much did they know a year ago? Did they know that it was even theirs that was gonna close? Or was it just, hey, there's a possibility that some of them are closing? So we don't really know concretely what actually was communicated to them. So I don't wanna cause that kind of a thought, is that for the employees and those kinds of things to think that we're causing that alarm or that they weren't told early, because we just don't know how much were concrete plans communicated to them a year ago. And that's the thing, if Rob is saying, that this is something that their HR director said, and again, what all did they really know that it would affect them and not just some job corps in general, So I think it could be that there were.
Well, in the world of emergency management, we don't care what caused the disaster, we're more focused on the
for sure.
recovery. So
Yes.
that's how we're taking a look at this, is how can we recover, how can we respond, so.
Yeah, I wonder if there was, like somebody just said, if there was gonna be an effort to maybe consolidate and close some lower performing centers, and then somebody said, well, that's a good idea, let's just close them all.
It could be, and then without us knowing that, I don't wanna
Right, we can't
presuppose
presume.
or do any of that. And again, I also don't want to put anything on Gary, because again, we don't know what was communicated to them about their specific center versus some job corps are being closed. And then maybe they did hear, oh yeah, you are one of those that are getting closed, and maybe that didn't occur,
The
as.
latest contractor just took over a year ago.
Right, so that's why I'm saying is that it could be, and if y'all will recall, those of us who went to DC last year, I remember that our consultant did talk about the fact that I don't know how much they're gonna talk about, like when we went to go visit Department of Labor, because with administrations changing and those kinds of things, that sometimes things are there. And so we didn't get a lot of information during some of that because I think they were reticent to understand what all was going to be affected by a change in.
Was it this last year, the day we got there?
Administrations.
One of the administrators had just been at the Job Corps the day before? Or was that the year before?
Yes.
Oh, it's just this year, okay.
Yes.
Okay, well, it
So
is
that's why
what
I'm
it
saying, like, I
is.
just don't want to create this
So
panic.
it looks like the Biden administration paused operations at 2 facilities, one in Maryland, one in Kentucky, in December of 2024. And then May 2025, the Trump administration expanded that to all contractor-operated centers, which ended up being 99 of them, including ours.
And there's something about some that are run by the agriculture department are gonna stay open. There was some other department, I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, so like I guess the
Yes.
government-operated ones are staying open. It's just the contractor-operated ones that are being
That
shut
are-
down.
that are
Mayor,
being shut
Mayor
down.
and council, there were 99 centers nationwide. 22 of those centers were run by the Department of Agriculture, and they were to remain open.
Yeah. Okay, so at this point, I'm withdrawing my request to do the letter of support because that's not the situation we're in now. I compliment everyone who got on the case quickly and is continuing to see how we can assist these folks that have been our neighbors for a really long time and hopefully can still remain neighbors. Okay, so that will close out 25. So we will move on to 26, Ms. Trevino.
The city council will convene an executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Government Code. A, Section 551.087, Economic Development, to deliberate regarding possible economic development incentives for Project AVSM and Project CATRI. B, Section 551.087, Economic Development, and Section 551.071, Attorney Consultation, to deliberate the potential offer of a financial incentive to a business prospect and to receive legal advice related to the Village at Posey Road Public Improvement District proposal. C, Section 551.072, real property. 1, to deliberate the possible purchase, exchange, lease, or value of land as necessary for the development of a new city hall. And 2, to deliberate the possible purchase of real property east of the city for various city uses.
Looking for a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Goes to Mr. Scott, seconded by Mr. Mendoza. Mr. Trevino is going to set us up to vote.
Yes, there you go.
This is to go into executive session.
Mr.
Mr. Gonzalez? Would you push your button, please? Thank you.
Motion passes 6-0 with 1 absent.
All right. Our executive session at 9:34. Ms. Trevino, we're on to item 27.
Consider action by motion and provide direction to staff related to the city council's executive session deliberation under the following sections of the Texas Government Code during the city council's work session or regular meeting, just as listed below. Do I have to read the whole meeting? Like,
I would have said as
That's why I
listed,
said just as listed below.
as I read at 3 o'clock,
Yes,
or right before we went in.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, on item 27A and the AVSM, that was direction to staff. Project CATRI will sound familiar because we discussed it and we passed that tonight. I believe it was number 20. B, we did direction to staff. C, 1, we did direction to staff. And item C2 was direction to staff. It is now time for Q&A with press and public. There were some people signed up, but they spoke earlier at different times. Most of them, I do not see anyone in chambers or in the lobby, so we do not have any question and answer with the press and public this evening. There being no further items on our agenda, I will adjourn us at 9:38. We'll be home by 10.